I thought you'd never ask. Those 5 words shattered everything Liam Parker thought he knew about friendship, love, and the carefully constructed walls he'd built around his heart. What started as a joke, a throwaway line during an IKEA assembly disaster, became the moment that would change 3 lives forever. This is the story of a single father who accidentally proposed to his best friend, only to discover that the greatest love stories aren't always the ones we plan. They're the ones we've been living all along, too afraid to see what was right in front of us. If you're watching from anywhere in the world, drop your city in the comments below. I want to see how far this story travels, and if it moves you, hit that like button and stay until the end. Trust me, you'll want to see how this unfolds. The Thursday afternoon sun filtered through Harper Lane's apartment windows, casting long shadows across the hardwood floor that was currently buried under a disaster zone of Swedish engineering. Wooden planks lay scattered like fallen dominoes, mysterious metal brackets gleamed in the light, and an instruction manual, printed in what appeared to be 17 languages, none of them particularly helpful, sat crumpled in the corner where Liam Parker had thrown it in frustration 20 minutes ago. "I'm starting to think," Liam muttered, holding up 2 identical-looking pieces of wood, "that IKEA is actually a front for some kind of psychological torture operation." Harper laughed from her position on the floor, cross-legged and surrounded by screws she'd been attempting to organize by size. "You're just mad because you ignored my suggestion to check if we had all the pieces first." "I'm a freelance designer, Harper. I design things. I should be able to build a simple bookshelf without having an existential crisis." Should being the operative word. Liam shot her a look, but there was no heat in it. There never was with Harper. That was the thing about 15 years of friendship. They'd long ago moved past the point where either of them could genuinely offend the other. They'd weathered too much together. High school chemistry classes where neither of them could tell hydrogen from helium. College heartbreaks. His disastrous early 20s, her mother's illness, and then the earthquake that had reshaped his entire world. Ava's arrival and her mother's departure. Through it all, Harper had been constant. She was there the night he'd gotten the call that Sophie was leaving. There when he'd held his 3-month-old daughter in a hospital room, terrified and alone. There for every milestone, every crisis, every 3 a.m. panic attack when he was convinced he was failing at fatherhood. Harper knew him better than anyone alive, which made moments like this easy, comfortable, punctuated by sarcasm and laughter, feel like breathing. "Hand me that weird L-shaped thing," he said, gesturing vaguely. "You're going to have to be more specific. Everything in this box is a weird L-shaped thing." "The one with the—" He paused, actually looking at the instruction manual for the first time in 10 minutes. "Okay, I have no idea what I'm looking for." Harper snorted, reaching for her phone. "I'm texting Ava's grandmother to let her know you might not survive the night." "Don't you dare. Patricia already thinks I'm incompetent." "Patricia thinks everyone under 60 is incompetent. It's not personal." Harper's fingers flew across her screen, and Liam knew without looking that she was indeed texting his ex-mother-in-law, probably with some joke about his handyman skills. The two of them had an oddly close relationship, bonded by their mutual affection for Ava and their shared amusement at Liam's domestic struggles. It should have been weird, he supposed. The fact that his best friend and his daughter's grandmother texted regularly, swapped recipes, and occasionally went to lunch without him. But it wasn't weird. It was just Harper. She'd woven herself so thoroughly into the fabric of his life that he couldn't imagine it any other way. The afternoon stretched on, marked by increasingly creative cursing, and the occasional triumphant click when 2 pieces actually fit together correctly. Outside, the city hummed with its usual Thursday rhythm, traffic sounds floating up from the street below, the distant wail of a siren, someone's music playing too loud 3 apartments over. Liam had always loved Harper's place. It was smaller than his, a 1-bedroom in an older building that creaked and settled like a ship at sea, but it felt more like home than anywhere he'd lived. Maybe it was the mismatched furniture she'd collected over years of thrift store hunting. Maybe it was the walls covered in framed photographs. Her sister's wedding, a trip they'd all taken to the coast last summer, Ava's school pictures arranged in chronological order like a shrine. Or maybe it was just Harper herself, the way she moved through the space with easy familiarity, the way she'd curled up in that same corner of the couch for as long as he'd known her, the way everything smelled faintly of the lavender candles she bought in bulk. "You're thinking too hard," Harper said, interrupting his thoughts. "I can hear your brain from here. I'm trying to figure out if this panel goes here or—" He held up the piece, squinting at it. "Actually, I think this might be upside down. Everything's upside down at this point. We might be building a ceiling shelf." Liam laughed, setting the piece down and reaching for his water bottle. His phone buzzed, a reminder about tomorrow's client meeting. Back to reality. He'd spent the morning working on a logo redesign for a startup that kept changing their mind about color schemes, and he had 3 more projects due by the end of next week. Freelancing meant freedom, meant he could pick Ava up from school and make it to her dance recitals, but it also meant the work never really stopped. "How's the Peterson project going?" Harper asked, as if reading his mind. "Again. They've changed the direction 4 times in 2 weeks. I'm charging them extra for the therapy I'll need afterward." "Sounds about right." She stood stretching, her joints popping audibly. "Coffee? Please." While Harper moved to the kitchen, really just a corner of the main room with a stove and a sink, Liam took stock of their progress. 2 hours in, and they'd managed to assemble what might charitably be called 1/3 of a bookshelf. At this rate, they'd be here until midnight. Not that he minded. Ava was safe with Patricia, probably being spoiled with homemade cookies and stories about the old days that inevitably made his daughter ask impossible questions about history. He had nowhere to be. And spending an evening with Harper, even one dedicated to Swedish furniture assembly, beat the alternative, going home to an empty apartment, staring at his computer screen, wondering why he couldn't remember the last time he'd done something just for himself. "You want the usual?" Harper called from the kitchen. "You know it." She did know it. Strong, black, with exactly half a teaspoon of sugar. She'd known his coffee order since they were 19 and practically living at the campus Starbucks during finals week. Just like he knew hers, caramel latte, extra shot, no whip. It was the little things, he thought, the accumulated knowledge of another person that came from years of showing up. Harper knew he hated mushrooms but loved zucchini, knew he always double-knotted his left shoe but not his right, knew he reorganized his workspace when he was stressed and went silent when he was really upset. And he knew her just as well. Knew she doodled in the margins when she was thinking, knew she watched cooking shows when she couldn't sleep, knew she'd rather die than admit she was scared, but her voice got quieter when she was. The coffee machine gurgled to life, filling the apartment with its familiar aroma. "So," Harper said, returning with 2 mugs, "are you going to tell me about the woman from the coffee shop? Or are we pretending that didn't happen?" Liam groaned. "How do you even know about that?" "Ava told me. Apparently you talked to her for a really long time, and she had pretty hair. She asked about my laptop skin. It was 30 seconds of polite conversation. Ava said you got her number." "Ava," Liam said firmly, "has a very active imagination." Harper raised an eyebrow, settling back down on the floor. "So you didn't get her number?" "I did, but—" he sighed. "I don't know. It didn't feel— I'm not interested." "You're never interested." "That's not true." "Liam," Harper's voice was gentle but pointed, "when was the last time you actually went on a date?" He thought about it, genuinely tried to remember. "There was that woman from Ava's school, the one who volunteered in the library. That was 18 months ago. And you went out twice before you decided she was too something, too invested in telling me how to parent. She suggested you read to Ava before bed. Ava and I have our routine. We don't need—" He stopped, realizing he was proving Harper's point. "Okay, fine, I'm picky. You're scared." The words landed softly, but they hit hard. Liam looked at his best friend, at the concern in her eyes, and felt something twist in his chest. She wasn't wrong. He was scared, terrified actually, of bringing someone into Ava's life who might leave, of letting his daughter get attached to another person who could disappear, of proving that he was as incapable of sustaining a relationship as Sophie had implied when she'd walked out. "Ava's my priority," he said quietly. "I know she is. But you're allowed to have a life too, Liam." "I have a life. Work and parenting isn't a life, it's survival," says the woman who works 60-hour weeks. It came out more defensive than he'd intended. Harper didn't flinch. "I'm not the one we're talking about." They fell into silence, the kind that would have been awkward with anyone else but felt merely weighted with Harper. She had this way of calling him out on his bullshit without making him feel attacked. It was a skill she'd honed over years of friendship, of knowing exactly how far to push before backing off. Liam picked up another wooden piece, examining it like it held the secrets of the universe. "I just don't see the point of dating someone I'm not serious about. And I can't be serious about someone unless I know they'd be good with Ava. And I can't know that unless I introduce them, which feels like too much pressure too soon, so I just don't." That's circular logic. "That's my life." Harper was quiet for a long moment, her fingers tracing the rim of her coffee mug. When she spoke again, her voice was careful. "What if you already knew someone who was good with Ava?" "Like who?" She didn't answer, just looked at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. Then the moment passed, and she was reaching for the instruction manual, changing the subject with practiced ease. "All right, Mr. Designer Man. If we're going to finish this before sunrise, we need a strategy." They worked in companionable silence after that, falling into a rhythm. Liam would identify a piece, Harper would find its corresponding partner, and together they'd wrestle it into place. It was oddly meditative, the kind of mindless task that let his thoughts wander. He thought about Ava, about how she'd looked this morning at breakfast, syrup on her chin, chattering about a boy in her class who could burp the alphabet. His daughter was 6 years old, bright and wild and entirely too perceptive for her age. She noticed things, asked questions that had no easy answers, like why her mom didn't visit, like why Daddy never had anyone special. He'd tried explaining it once, that some people loved each other in different ways, that Sophie loved her but needed to live her own life, that relationships were complicated. Ava had listened seriously, then asked if Harper was special. "Of course," he'd said. "Then why isn't she your girlfriend?" He'd laughed it off. "Because we're friends, sweetie. Best friends. But you love her." "Yes, but it's different." "Why? Why?" The question every 6-year-old's favorite weapon, and one he'd never quite found a satisfactory answer to. Why was his love for Harper different? Because it was. It had to be. She was his constant, his anchor, the person who knew every ugly part of him and stuck around anyway. Romantic relationships ended. They crumbled under pressure, fell apart when things got hard. His friendship with Harper had survived everything life threw at them. He wasn't stupid enough to risk that. The light outside had shifted from gold to amber, long shadows crawling across the floor. Liam's back ached from hunching over, and he was pretty sure he'd somehow gotten sawdust in his hair, despite the fact that they hadn't actually sawed anything. "I think," Harper said, studying their progress, "we might actually finish this." "Don't jinx it. I'm serious. Look, we've got the frame done, the sides are attached. We just need to add the shelves and the back panel." Liam sat back, allowing himself a moment of cautious optimism. She was right. They'd actually managed to create something that looked shelf-adjacent. It was crooked, definitely not up to code, and he was pretty sure they'd used at least 3 pieces incorrectly, but it stood. "We're basically construction geniuses," he declared. "We're basically lucky we haven't impaled ourselves on Allen wrenches." Details. They worked for another hour, the conversation drifting from topic to topic with the ease of people who'd discussed everything from philosophy to celebrity gossip during their 15-year friendship. Harper told him about her sister's latest relationship drama, a saga involving a boyfriend who'd proposed after 3 months in a family deeply divided on whether this was romantic or insane. Liam filled her in on Patricia's latest attempt to set him up with someone from her book club. "A 62-year-old divorcee named Sandra who breeds chihuahuas," he said. "That's who Patricia thinks is my type." "To be fair, you haven't given her much to work with. For all she knows, you might love chihuahuas." "I'm allergic to chihuahuas." "Are you actually?" "No, but I'm starting a new policy of claiming allergies to things I want to avoid." Harper laughed, the sound filling the apartment. Liam loved her laugh, genuine and unself-conscious, the kind that made other people want to laugh too. Ava had inherited it, that same uninhibited joy. The two of them together were dangerous, feeding off each other's energy until they were both giggling so hard they couldn't breathe. He'd once told Harper she was better with his daughter than he was. She'd punched his arm and told him not to be an idiot, but it was true. Harper had a gift for meeting Ava exactly where she was. Silly when Ava needed silly, serious when she needed serious, patient when Liam was ready to tear his hair out over homework or bedtime negotiations. Do you ever think about having kids? The question surprised him as much as it probably surprised her. He hadn't meant to ask it. Harper's hand stilled on the shelf she'd been positioning. Sometimes. Yeah? I mean, I'm 31, the biological clock and all that, but she shrugged, not quite meeting his eyes. I don't know. I'd need the right situation, the right person. Is there anyone? Are you seeing anyone? He realized with a start that he didn't actually know. They talked about everything, but Harper's dating life had become this weird blind spot in their friendship. She never mentioned it, and he never asked. No one serious? But not no one? There was a guy a few months ago, lasted about 5 weeks. What happened? Harper was quiet for a long moment, her fingers tracing the wood grain of the shelf. He said I talked about you and Ava too much. Liam felt something uncomfortable twist in his stomach. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. You didn't do anything wrong, Liam. He was just insecure. Anyone worth dating would understand that you two are a huge part of my life. Still, he felt guilty, though he couldn't articulate exactly why. You shouldn't have to. I don't want to be the reason you can't. You're not. She cut him off firmly. Trust me, there were plenty of other reasons that guy wasn't right. The Liam and Ava thing was just his excuse. They finished installing the shelves in silence, both lost in their own thoughts. The bookshelf stood complete now, slightly crooked but undeniably functional. A small victory against the chaos of life. Liam stood, stretching his cramped legs, and walked to the window. The city was settling into evening, lights beginning to flicker on in apartments across the street. Somewhere out there, people were living their lives, falling in love, falling out of it, making dinner, making mistakes, making choices that would ripple through their futures in ways they couldn't predict. He thought about choice, about the fact that he'd somehow decided, without ever consciously deciding, that his life was full, that he had Ava and work and Harper, and that was enough, that wanting more was selfish or dangerous, or just not worth the risk. But what if Harper was right? What if he was just surviving instead of living? You know what? He said, turning back to face her. The words came out before he'd fully formed the thought. He was exhausted, emotionally wrung out from a conversation that had gotten deeper than either of them intended, and his brain-to-mouth filter had apparently taken the evening off. Harper looked up at him, still sitting on the floor surrounded by the detritus of their construction project. Her hair escaping from its ponytail, dust on her jeans, looking so entirely herself that something in his chest ached. Forget the bookshelf, he said, gesturing at their crooked creation. Just marry me. Then at least I'd have someone legally obligated to help with this stuff forever. He laughed as he said it. Of course he laughed. It was ridiculous, the kind of throwaway joke he made 100 times a day. Deflecting with humor was his default setting, his way of touching on real feelings without actually having to deal with them. He was already turning back to the window, already moving on to the next topic in his mind, when he realized that Harper hadn't laughed. The silence stretched. Liam turned slowly, the smile fading from his face. Harper was staring at him with an expression he'd never seen before, something raw and vulnerable and terrifying in its intensity. Her hands had frozen in the middle of gathering screws, and she was so still she might have been carved from stone. Liam, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I thought you'd never ask. The world tilted. He waited for her to smile, to laugh, to reveal the punchline that would let them both off the hook. But she wasn't smiling. She wasn't laughing. She was just looking at him with eyes that held 15 years of something he'd been too scared or stupid to see. Harper. He didn't know how to finish that sentence. I'm in love with you. The words tumbled out like she'd been holding them back so long that once the dam broke, she couldn't stop. I have been for 3 years. Maybe longer. I don't know anymore. I've been trying so hard not to be, trying to convince myself that what we have as friends is enough. But it's not. It's never been enough. Liam felt like he was standing outside his own body, watching this scene unfold from a distance. This couldn't be happening. This was Harper, his best friend, the person who, 3 years? It was all he could manage. She stood up, wrapping her arms around herself like she was trying to hold something in. It was the night Ava had that fever. Do you remember? He remembered. Ava had been 4, burning up with a temperature that spiked to 104 despite the medicine. He'd been terrified, alone, convinced he was failing at the one thing that mattered most. He'd called Harper at 2 a.m., and she'd shown up in 20 minutes with popsicles and a cool washcloth and a calm certainty that everything would be okay. You broke down in the kitchen, Harper continued, her voice shaking. You were crying, saying you weren't enough, that Ava deserved better. And I held you. And I realized that I wanted to hold you forever, not as your friend, as... She stopped, swallowing hard. As someone who loved you, really loved you. Why didn't you say anything? The question came out harsher than he'd intended. Because you always turned everything into a joke, Liam. Her voice rose, years of frustration bleeding through. Every time I tried to get close to anything real, you'd deflect with humor or change the subject, or suddenly remember something you had to do. I kept waiting for you to see me, really see me, but you never did. The accusation hung in the air between them. Liam's mind was racing, rewiring 15 years of history through this new lens. All the times Harper had been there, all the moments he'd taken for granted, the way she always brought Ava little gifts, just because. The way she showed up to every school recital, every dance performance, every parent-teacher conference that allowed +1s. The way she'd never dated anyone seriously, not in all the time he'd known her. How had he not seen it? Or had he seen it and just refused to acknowledge it because acknowledging it would mean risking everything? Say something, Harper whispered, and there was something in her voice that broke him, a desperate hope mixed with resignation, like she was already preparing for rejection. Liam looked at her, really looked at her, and saw not just his best friend, but the woman who'd been keeping his life together for years. The woman who knew Ava's favorite bedtime story because she'd read it 100 times. The woman who brought him coffee when he was on deadline and made sure he remembered to eat and called him out when he was being an idiot. The woman who'd been in love with him while he'd been too scared to even consider the possibility. His chest felt tight, like all the air had been sucked out of the room. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Words felt inadequate, but silence felt cruel. He started, but he didn't know how to finish, because the truth was complicated. The truth was that he'd never let himself think about Harper that way, had deliberately kept her in the friend category because it felt safer. Because every romantic relationship he'd ever had ended in disaster, but his friendship with Harper was the one constant in his chaotic life. But what if she was right? What if he'd been using humor as a shield, keeping her at arm's length because he was terrified of losing her? What if the reason he compared every woman he dated to Harper was because no one else measured up? What if... The thought hit him like a physical blow. What if he'd been in love with her too, and he'd just been too scared to admit it? Harper was watching him, her eyes bright with unshed tears, and Liam realized that this moment was changing everything. There was no going back to the way things were. They'd crossed a line, and whatever he said next would determine the shape of their future. He could feel his heart pounding, could hear the blood rushing in his ears. The apartment felt too small, too warm. Outside, the city continued its indifferent rhythm, cars passing, people living their lives, completely unaware that Liam Parker's entire world was coming apart and rearranging itself into something new. Harper took a shaky breath. I need you to say something, Liam, even if it's no, even if it's that you don't feel the same way. I can't do this silence. And Liam realized, standing in her living room surrounded by the remnants of their bookshelf project, that he'd arrived at the most important moment of his life entirely unprepared. He thought about Ava, about how she lit up whenever Harper walked into a room. He thought about the way he'd catch himself imagining Harper at their dinner table and telling himself it was just because she was around so often. He thought about every woman he'd tried to date and how none of them had ever felt right because they weren't Harper. The realization settled over him slowly, like dawn breaking. He'd been so busy protecting what they had that he'd never stopped to consider what they could have. He'd convinced himself that friendship was enough because he was terrified that anything more would ruin it. But what if he'd been wrong? What if the greatest risk wasn't losing their friendship by trying for something more, but losing the chance for something extraordinary because he was too afraid to try? Liam stepped forward, closing the distance between them. Harper's eyes widened, surprise flickering across her features. He reached out, his hand finding hers, their fingers intertwining in a gesture that felt both familiar and entirely new. "I think," he said slowly, his voice rough with emotion he couldn't quite name, "that I've been an idiot." Harper let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. "That's not news. I think," he continued, "that I've been in love with you too. I didn't let myself see it because I was so fucking scared of messing this up." The words hung in the air between them, true and terrifying. "Because if I mess this up," Liam continued, "I don't just lose my best friend. I lose the person who feels like home. I lose the person who knows me better than I know myself. I lose—" His voice cracked. "I lose everything." "Liam." Harper's free hand came up to his face, her touch gentle. "You're not going to lose me. You don't know that. I do know that, because I've loved you through everything else. Through Sophie leaving, through your worst moments, through every stupid decision you've made. Why would this be different? Because the stakes are higher." "The stakes have always been high," she said softly. "Love isn't a guarantee, Liam, but fear isn't a strategy either." He looked at her, at the woman who'd been beside him through everything that mattered, who'd helped him build not just a bookshelf, but a life, and felt something shift in his chest, some wall he'd built years ago, crumbling to dust. He'd spent so long trying to control everything, to keep his life stable and predictable for Ava's sake. But maybe control was an illusion. Maybe the only thing he could actually control was whether he was brave enough to reach for the life he wanted, instead of settling for the one that felt safe. "I compare every woman I date to you," he admitted. "Every single one. And they never measure up because they're not you. They don't know how I take my coffee, or that Ava's afraid of thunderstorms, or that I reorganize my desk when I'm stressed. They're not woven into my life the way you are." Harper's breath hitched. "Liam, I imagine you at our dinner table," he continued, the words flowing now like a dam had broken. "Not as a guest, as someone who belongs there. I picture Ava getting older and you being there for all of it. First day of high school, graduation, all of it. And I tell myself it's because you're her godmother, because you're my best friend. But that's not why. Why then?" He met her eyes, and the truth came out simple and devastating. "Because I can't imagine my future without you in it. Not as my friend, as more." The last word came out as barely a whisper, but it felt like shouting. Harper was crying now, tears streaming down her face, but she was also smiling. "You're serious?" "I'm terrified," he admitted. "But yeah, I'm serious. This isn't just because I said something first. You're not just trying to—" "Harper," he cut her off gently. "I'm in love with you. I think I have been for a long time. I just didn't let myself feel it." She laughed, a watery, disbelieving sound. "This is insane." "Completely." "We're really doing this?" "I don't know. Are we?" Instead of answering, Harper closed the last few inches between them and kissed him. It wasn't dramatic or theatrical. There was no swelling music or perfect lighting. It was just them, standing in her apartment surrounded by Allen wrenches and instruction manuals, finally brave enough to acknowledge what had been building between them for years. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, like they were both afraid the other might pull away. But then Liam's free hand found her waist, and Harper's fingers tangled in his hair, and it deepened into something that felt like coming home and jumping off a cliff at the same time. When they finally broke apart, both slightly breathless, Liam rested his forehead against hers. "So that happened," he said. Harper laughed. "Very observant. I'm a little out of practice with the whole kissing thing." "Seemed fine to me." They stood there for a long moment, neither quite willing to let go, both trying to process the magnitude of what had just shifted between them. 15 years of friendship, fundamentally altered in the space of a single conversation. "What do we do now?" Harper asked quietly. It was the question Liam had been avoiding thinking about, because this wasn't just about them. This was about Ava, about not disrupting the one stable, happy childhood he'd managed to create for his daughter, about not introducing variables that could hurt her if things went wrong. "We need to be smart about this," he said finally. "For Ava." Harper nodded against his shoulder. I know. I can't just... She's 6 years old, Harper. She doesn't understand complicated adult relationships. If we do this and it doesn't work out, I know, Harper repeated. But Liam, I need you to understand something. I'm not Sophie. I'm not going to leave. You can't promise that. No, she agreed. I can't promise that nothing will ever go wrong or that we won't have problems. But I can promise that I'm not going anywhere, whether we're friends or more. I'm in this. I've always been in this. Liam pulled back enough to look at her. You really love me? Yes, you idiot. And you're willing to go slow to figure this out in a way that doesn't mess up Ava's life? Of course. He kissed her again, softer this time, and felt something settle in his chest. Not certainty. He wasn't sure he'd ever have certainty about anything, but something close to it. A sense that maybe, just maybe, this could work. They spent the next hour talking, really talking, about what this meant. About boundaries and expectations and how to navigate this new territory. Harper was patient, understanding, willing to take things at whatever pace Liam needed. She suggested they keep it between them for now, let themselves figure out what they were before involving Ava. I don't want to confuse her, Liam said. I don't want to confuse us, Harper countered. We need to know this is real before we change her world. He was grateful for her pragmatism, for the fact that even in the middle of this emotional upheaval, she was thinking about his daughter. Of course she was. Harper had always thought about Ava. It was past midnight when Liam finally stood to leave. The bookshelf stood completed in the corner, slightly crooked but functional, a monument to their evening of chaos and revelation. So, Harper said, walking him to the door. Same time next week for the dresser? Liam laughed. You're assuming I'll survive building another piece of furniture with you. Fair point. They stood in the doorway, neither quite wanting to end the evening. Finally, Liam leaned down and kissed her one more time. Slow and sweet and full of promise. Good night, Harper. Good night, Liam. He walked to his car in a daze, his mind replaying the evening on loop, the accidental proposal, Harper's confession, the kiss that changed everything. It felt surreal, like something that had happened to someone else. But it had happened to him, and for the first time in years, Liam Parker felt something that had been absent from his carefully controlled life. Hope. Not the quiet, resigned hope that things would stay okay, but the wild, terrifying hope that things might actually get better, that he might actually get to have more than just stability, that love didn't have to mean chaos and pain and eventual abandonment, that maybe, just maybe, the best thing that ever happened to him had been standing beside him all along, waiting for him to be brave enough to see it. He drove home through the quiet city streets, past darkened buildings and the occasional late-night diner still glowing with life. When he got home, he stood in the doorway of Ava's empty room, looking at the stuffed animals arranged on her bed, the art projects taped to the walls, the chaos of toys she'd promised to clean up before going to her grandmother's. Tomorrow she'd be back, filling the apartment with her energy and questions and 6-year-old observations about the world. And he'd look the same to her, same dad, same routine, same life. But everything had changed. Liam walked to his own room, pulled out his phone, and saw a text from Harper waiting for him. Thank you for not running away. He smiled, typing back, Thank you for waiting. Her response came immediately. Always. Liam set his phone down and lay back on his bed, staring at the ceiling. He thought about all the times he'd lain in this exact spot, convinced that he had life figured out, convinced that he knew what he needed, what was safe, what was best. He'd been wrong. The best things in life, he was learning, weren't safe. They were terrifying. They required you to be vulnerable and honest and willing to risk everything you'd carefully built. But they were also worth it. He fell asleep with a smile on his face, dreaming of crooked bookshelves and the woman who'd helped him build not just furniture, but finally, the courage to build something real. The morning sunlight felt different somehow, sharper, more alive. Liam stood at his kitchen counter, staring at the coffee maker as it hissed and gurgled, trying to reconcile the person he'd been yesterday with whoever he was supposed to be now. His phone sat face up on the counter, Harper's last text still glowing on the screen. Always. Such a simple word, carrying the weight of 15 years and one impossible night. He'd barely slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he was back in Harper's apartment, feeling her lips against his, hearing her voice crack as she admitted she'd loved him for 3 years. 3 years. While he'd been going through the motions, dating women he had no intention of getting serious with, Harper had been there, waiting, loving him quietly. The guilt was almost worse than the fear. His phone buzzed. Patricia. Ava's having pancakes. We'll be ready by 10. Liam glanced at the microwave clock. 8:47. He had just over an hour before his daughter bounded back into his life, full of stories about her sleepover and questions about what he'd done without her. How was he supposed to look at her and pretend everything was normal when his entire foundation had shifted? He texted back, perfect. See you then. Another buzz. This time, Harper. Morning. How are you feeling? Liam stared at the message, his fingers hovering over the keyboard. How was he feeling? Terrified. Exhilarated. Like he'd jumped out of an airplane without checking if his parachute worked. Like he'd finally done something right after years of playing it safe. Honestly? No idea, he typed. You? The 3 dots appeared immediately, disappeared, appeared again. He could picture her on the other end, deleting and rewriting, trying to find the right words. It was oddly comforting, knowing she was just as uncertain as he was. Same, but good uncertain, not bad uncertain. There's a difference? With you? Always. Liam caught himself smiling at his phone like a teenager and forced himself to set it down. He needed to think clearly, and he couldn't do that while texting Harper. Everything about her scrambled his ability to be rational. The coffee finished brewing, he poured himself a cup, added exactly half a teaspoon of sugar, the way Harper had known without asking, and moved to the living room window. The city was waking up around him. Joggers on the sidewalk below. A dog walker managing 4 leashes with impressive coordination. Normal people living normal lives, unaware that Liam Parker's carefully constructed world had been turned inside out. He thought about Ava, about how she'd asked him just last month why Harper wasn't his girlfriend. He'd laughed it off, explained that friends were different from girlfriends, that you could love someone without it being romantic. She'd accepted the answer with a shrug, the way kids did when adults gave them explanations that didn't quite satisfy but weren't worth arguing about. What would he tell her now? Nothing. Not yet. He and Harper had agreed. They needed to figure out what this was before they changed Ava's understanding of the world. His daughter had already lost one mother. She didn't need the confusion of watching her father date her godmother unless he was absolutely certain it would work. And how could he be certain? Relationships failed. He had the divorce papers to prove it. Love wasn't a guarantee. It was a risk, a gamble, a leap into the unknown that could end with everyone getting hurt. But then he remembered the way Harper had looked at him last night. The way she'd said, "I'm not Sophie. I'm not going anywhere." The quiet certainty in her voice, like she was stating a fact rather than making a promise. Harper had been there through everything. When Sophie left him alone with a 3-month-old and a bottle of whiskey, he'd seriously considered drowning himself in. When he'd called her at 2 a.m., terrified and exhausted, convinced he was failing. When Ava took her first steps and said her first word and started kindergarten, Harper had witnessed every milestone, celebrated every victory, weathered every crisis. She'd already proven she wasn't going anywhere, so why was he still scared? His phone rang. He expected Harper or Patricia, but the screen showed Marcus Chen, his college roommate, and one of the few other people who'd known him long enough to call him out on his nonsense. "You're up early," Liam answered. "Jennifer's got a yoga class. I'm on toddler duty." Marcus's voice carried the particular exhaustion of a man whose 2-year-old had discovered the concept of saying no to everything. "What's your excuse?" "Couldn't sleep." "Work stress or life stress?" Liam hesitated. He hadn't told anyone about last night. The whole thing still felt too fragile, too new. But Marcus knew him well enough to hear the silence. "Life stress," Marcus said, answering his own question. "What happened?" "Nothing, everything. I don't know." That's specific. Liam moved back to the kitchen, setting his coffee down harder than intended. "I might have accidentally told Harper I'm in love with her." The silence on the other end stretched for 3 full seconds. Then Marcus laughed, a genuine, surprised bark of amusement. Might have? How do you accidentally tell someone you love them? It's complicated. It's really not. Either you said it or you didn't. I said it. And? And she said it back. She's been in love with me for 3 years. Another pause. Liam could practically hear Marcus processing this information, recalibrating his understanding of the past several years of their friendship. Harper Lane? You're Harper. She's not my... Liam stopped. Yes, Harper. The woman who's been at every one of Ava's birthday parties. The woman you call when anything goes wrong. The woman you literally cannot go 3 days without seeing. Yes. And you're just now figuring out you're in love with her? I've been busy. You've been an idiot. Liam couldn't really argue with that. Thanks for the support. I'm serious, man. Everyone who knows you has been waiting for this. Jennifer and I have a bet going about how long it would take. That stopped him cold. You have a bet? Had. Past tense. Jennifer said by the end of this year. I said next summer. Looks like she wins. People have been betting on my love life? People have been watching you and Harper dance around each other for years. It was painful. We needed some entertainment value out of it. Liam rubbed his face with his free hand. This is insane. This is overdue. So what's the problem? You love her, she loves you. Seems pretty straightforward. It's not straightforward. There's Ava to think about. Ava adores Harper. That's the problem. If this doesn't work out, why wouldn't it work out? Marcus's voice was patient but firm. Liam, you've been basically married to Harper for the last 6 years. You just haven't been sleeping together. Now you get to add the fun parts without changing the foundation. It's not that simple. Why not? Because I'm terrified, Liam thought. Because every relationship I've ever had has ended. Because I don't trust myself not to mess this up. Because the stakes are too high, and I've already lost one family, and I can't survive losing another. But he didn't say any of that. Instead, he said, I need to pick up Ava soon. Run away from the conversation. Classic Liam Parker move. I'm not running. You're literally using your daughter as an excuse to hang up on me. He was, actually. I'll call you later. You better. And Liam, don't overthink this. For once in your life, just let yourself be happy. The line went dead before Liam could respond. He stood in his kitchen, Marcus's words echoing in his head. Just let yourself be happy. As if it were that easy. As if happiness was something you could just choose, like picking a coffee order or deciding what to wear. But maybe Marcus had a point. Maybe he'd spent so long protecting himself from potential pain that he'd forgotten how to recognize potential joy. His phone buzzed again. Harper, I know you're probably overthinking everything. Stop it. Despite himself, Liam smiled. She really did know him too well. I'm not overthinking. You're definitely overthinking. I can feel it from here. That's not a thing. It is when I've known you for 15 years. We're still good, right? The question made his chest tight. Even now, even after everything, she was worried about them. About preserving what they had, even if it meant putting her own feelings aside. We're good, he typed. Better than good. I'm just trying to figure out how to do this right. We'll figure it out together, like we figure out everything else. Even IKEA furniture? Especially IKEA furniture. That was the real test of our relationship. We passed. We created a functional bookshelf and fell in love. I'd say we aced it. Liam looked at those words, fell in love, and felt something settle in his chest. This was real. This was happening. Harper loved him. He loved her. Everything else was just details to be worked out. I need to pick up Ava, he texted. But can we talk later? Really talk? Of course. Call me tonight after she goes to bed? It's a date. He sent it before he could second-guess the word choice, then immediately regretted it. Was it a date? Were they dating now? What were the rules? Harper responded with a simple heart emoji, and Liam found himself staring at it like it held the secrets of the universe. 20 minutes later, he pulled up in front of Patricia's house, a tidy bungalow in a neighborhood that had been gentrifying for the past decade. His ex-mother-in-law was already on the porch, Ava bouncing beside her with the manic energy of a 6-year-old who'd consumed too much sugar. Daddy! Ava launched herself down the steps before he was fully out of the car. Liam caught her, lifting her into a hug that she immediately squirmed out of. Too old for prolonged displays of affection, at least in public. He understood. 6 was a complicated age. "Did you have fun, sis?" he asked. "Grammy let me stay up until 9:30, and we watched 2 movies and made cookies, and I beat her at Candyland 3 times. Patricia descended the steps more sedately, carrying Ava's overnight bag. "Someone's had plenty of sugar. I can see that." "She was an angel, as always." Patricia handed him the bag, then studied his face with the shrewd expression of a woman who'd raised 3 children and could read exhaustion from a mile away. "You look tired. Didn't sleep well. Everything all right?" "Yeah, just had a lot on my mind." Patricia's gaze sharpened, but she didn't push. Instead, she turned to Ava. "Give Grammy a hug before you go." Ava complied enthusiastically, then grabbed Liam's hand. "Can we go to the park?" "Please," Grammy said if it was okay with you. "We could." Liam glanced at Patricia, who shrugged. "I may have mentioned the possibility." The park, where Harper was supposed to meet them this afternoon. They'd made the plan 3 days ago, before everything changed. Was it weird now? Should he cancel? But Ava was looking at him with those wide, hopeful eyes that made it impossible to say no to anything. "Sure," he said. "We can go to the park." Ava cheered, already pulling him toward the car. He waved to Patricia, who called after them, "Tell Harper I said hello." Of course, Patricia knew Harper would be there. Everyone knew. His daughter's godmother was such a constant presence in their lives that people assumed her attendance at everything. The drive to the park took 15 minutes, during which Ava provided a detailed recap of every single thing she'd done at her grandmother's house. Liam made the appropriate listening noises, but his mind was elsewhere. How was he supposed to act around Harper with Ava there? Should anything change? They'd agreed to keep this between them, but he'd never been good at hiding his feelings. They arrived at the park to find it moderately crowded. The usual Saturday morning mix of parents with young children, teenagers claiming the basketball courts, an elderly couple feeding ducks by the pond, and Harper, sitting on their usual bench near the swings, looking up as they approached. Liam's heart did something complicated in his chest. She looked the same as always, jeans, a simple sweater, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. But everything was different. He knew what it felt like to kiss her now, knew the way she tasted like coffee and hope, knew the sound she made when he pulled her close. "Harper." Ava broke free from his hand and ran, launching herself at her godmother with the same enthusiasm she'd shown him 20 minutes earlier. Harper caught her easily, laughing. "Hey, troublemaker, I heard you beat your Grammy at Candyland 3 times. She said I was a card shark. That's pretty impressive." "What's a card shark?" "Someone who's really good at card games." Ava considered this. "Then Grammy's right. I am a card shark." Harper's eyes met Liam's over Ava's head, and something passed between them. A question, an acknowledgement, a shared moment of this is real, and we're doing this, and everything's different now. He smiled. She smiled back. Ava, oblivious to the entire silent conversation, was already pulling Harper toward the swings. "Push me. I want to go really high." "How high?" "To the moon." "I don't think my arms are that strong." "Then push me to the clouds." Harper laughed, following Ava to the swing set. Liam trailed behind, settling onto the bench to watch. This was familiar. How many Saturday afternoons had they spent exactly like this? Harper pushing Ava on the swings while Liam pretended to answer work emails, but actually just watched the two of them laugh together. But now he was seeing it differently. The way Harper's face lit up when Ava shrieked with joy. The way she knew exactly how high to push, how to keep Ava safe, while still giving her the thrill of flying. The way his daughter trusted her completely, absolutely, without question. Harper would be a good mother. The thought appeared unbidden, and Liam tried to shove it away. Too soon. Way too soon for those kinds of thoughts. They hadn't even been on a real date yet. He couldn't be thinking about futures and families and— "Higher!" Ava demanded, interrupting his spiral. "Any higher and you'll need a parachute," Harper called back, but she pushed harder anyway. Liam's phone buzzed. A work email from the client who kept changing their mind about color schemes. He should answer it, should be responsible, should focus on something other than the way Harper's ponytail swung when she stepped back to let Ava swing forward. He opened the email, read the first line, and closed it again. Work could wait. After 20 minutes of swinging, Ava decided she needed to test the monkey bars. Harper joined Liam on the bench, sitting with careful casualness, close enough that their shoulders almost touched, but not quite. "Hey," she said. "Hey. This is weird, right? I'm not imagining that this is weird. Extremely weird. But good weird?" Liam watched Ava hang from the monkey bars, her tongue sticking out in concentration. "Yeah, good weird." They sat in silence for a moment, both hyper-aware of the small space between them. Liam wanted to take her hand, but Ava was right there, and they'd agreed to wait, to be careful. "She looks happy," Harper said. "She is. Patricia spoils her. That's what grandmothers are for." Apparently, along with teaching 6-year-olds how to be card sharks. Harper laughed, and the sound made something warm spread through Liam's chest. How had he never noticed how much he loved her laugh? How had he taken it for granted all these years? "So," Harper said carefully, "have you been overthinking?" "Absolutely. Want to share, or are you keeping it all inside where it can fester?" "Probably the festering option." "Liam," he sighed, lowering his voice so Ava wouldn't hear. "I talked to Marcus this morning. Apparently everyone's been waiting for this. He and Jennifer had a bet going." Harper's eyebrows rose. "About us? About how long it would take me to figure it out." "Who won?" "Jennifer. She said by the end of this year." "Smart woman." Harper paused. "Does that bother you, that people noticed?" "I don't know. Maybe. I thought we were being subtle." "Liam, you call me before anyone else when anything happens. We spend more time together than most married couples. We finish each other's sentences. The only person who didn't notice was you." She had a point. "I'm observant about everything except my own life." "Clearly." Ava dropped from the monkey bars and ran toward the slide, her attention span moving to the next attraction. They watched her climb the ladder, fearless despite Liam's perpetual worry that she'd fall. "She's going to be okay," Harper said quietly, reading his mind as usual. "With all of this. With us." "You don't know that." "I do, actually. Because we're not going to let her not be okay. We'll take it slow. We'll be smart. We'll make sure she feels safe and loved through every step of this. And if we can't, if this messes her up," Harper turned to look at him fully. "Liam, you can't protect her from every possible pain. You can only love her and show up and do your best, which you've been doing since the day she was born." "My best might not be good enough." "Your best is amazing, and you're not alone in this. You've never been alone in this." The words hit him harder than they should have. He'd spent so long thinking of himself as a solo act, single dad, lone parent, one man against the chaos of raising a child. But Harper was right. He'd never been alone. She'd been there all along, helping carry the weight he thought he was bearing by himself. "I don't deserve you," he said. "That's the stupidest thing you've ever said, and you've said a lot of stupid things." "I'm serious. So am I. You deserve to be happy, Liam. You deserve to have someone who loves you and Ava and wants to build a life with you. Stop convincing yourself otherwise." Before he could respond, Ava came running back, breathless and flushed. "I'm hungry." Liam checked his watch. Noon. "How are you hungry? Grammy fed you pancakes 3 hours ago." "That was breakfast hungry. This is lunch hungry." "Those are different things?" "Completely different." Harper stood, ruffling Ava's hair. "Well, we can't have you starving. What sounds good? Pizza." "Pizza for lunch seems reasonable," Harper agreed, glancing at Liam for confirmation. This was another familiar routine. The three of them going to Giovanni's, the pizza place 2 blocks from the park that Ava had declared the best in the entire universe based on a sample size of 3 pizza places. They'd done it dozens of times. But now everything felt charged with new meaning. Now he was hyper-aware of the way Harper looked at him. The way she smiled when Ava grabbed both their hands, insisting they swing her between them on the walk to the restaurant. They settled into a booth at Giovanni's, Ava sliding into the middle so she could be next to both of them. She chattered about her favorite topics, a friend at school who could do a cartwheel, a book she wanted Liam to read to her, whether unicorns could be real if they lived somewhere nobody had explored yet. Liam watched Harper engage with every topic seriously, never talking down to Ava, always treating her questions like they mattered. This was who Harper was, present, attentive, genuine. No wonder his daughter adored her. No wonder he'd fallen in love with her. The pizza arrived, half pepperoni for Ava, half vegetable for the adults. They ate and talked, and it was so normal that Liam almost forgot everything had changed. Almost forgot that he was sitting across from the woman he'd kissed last night, the woman who'd been in love with him for 3 years while he'd been oblivious. But then their hands would brush reaching for napkins, or their eyes would meet across the table, and the awareness would crash back over him like a wave. "Daddy, are you listening?" Ava's voice cut through his thoughts. "Sorry, what?" "I asked if Harper could come to my dance recital next week." "Of course she can," Liam said, then looked at Harper. "If you're free?" "Wouldn't miss it," Harper said. "What are you dancing to?" "It's a surprise. Teacher said we can't tell." Very mysterious. After lunch, they walked back to the park. Ava ran ahead, burning off sugar and energy in equal measure. Harper and Liam followed at a more sedate pace, carefully maintaining a friend-appropriate distance between them. "This is hard," Harper said quietly. "What is?" "Being around you and not being able to—" She gestured vaguely. "You know." Liam did know. He wanted to hold her hand, wanted to pull her close, wanted to kiss her right there in the middle of the sidewalk with the whole world watching. But Ava was 20 feet ahead, and they had to be careful. "We should go on a real date," he said suddenly. Harper stopped walking. "Really?" "Yeah, a proper date. Dinner, conversation, all of it. Away from Ava, away from responsibilities. Just us figuring out what this is. When?" "I don't know. I need to find a babysitter. Ask Patricia." "I'm not telling Patricia about this yet." "She's going to figure it out. She's scary observant. She figured out I was dating Sophie before I did." "Exactly. So maybe we should just tell her." Liam considered this. Patricia was practical, level-headed, and had been Team Harper since before Team Harper was even a concept. She'd probably throw a party. "Let me think about it," he said. They reached the park again. Ava wanted to go back to the swings, but this time she insisted on pumping her legs herself, determined to prove she could do it without help. "Watch me," she called. "I'm doing it." "You're amazing," Harper called back. Liam watched his daughter swing, gaining height with each pump of her legs, her face bright with achievement. 6 years old and already so independent, so determined to do things herself. She got that from him, probably. The stubborn streak. The need to prove she could handle it, but she also had Harper's laugh, Harper's kindness. All those qualities she'd absorbed from the woman who'd been present for her entire conscious life. "What are you thinking?" Harper asked. "That Ava's already half yours," Liam said, "and she doesn't even know it yet." Harper's breath caught. "Liam, I mean it. She's got your mannerisms, your laugh. The way she talks to people like everyone's interesting, that's all you. She's got plenty of you too. The design brain, the sarcasm, the terrible jokes. My jokes aren't terrible. Your jokes are objectively terrible." They smiled at each other, and Liam felt the weight of the moment settle over them. This wasn't just about the two of them anymore. It had never been just about them. Ava was part of this equation, had been from the beginning, and maybe that was okay. Maybe it was even better. Because Harper didn't just love him. She loved his daughter. She'd proven that 1,000 times over. She wasn't asking him to choose between them. She was asking to be part of both their lives in a deeper way. The afternoon stretched on. Ava played until she started to get tired, her movements slower, her enthusiasm waning. By 3 o'clock, she was sitting on the bench between them, leaning against Harper's shoulder. "Someone's ready for quiet time," Harper observed. "I'm not tired," Ava protested through a yawn. "Of course not. You're wide awake." Super awake. 5 minutes later, she was dozing, her head on Harper's lap. Harper stroked her hair absently, and Liam took a mental photograph of the moment. His daughter and the woman he loved, peaceful in the afternoon sun. "She trusts you completely," he said softly. "I trust her too." "That's not what I mean. She feels safe with you, comfortable, like your family." "I am family," Harper said simply. "I've always been family." And she was right. The labels didn't matter. Godmother, best friend, whatever they called it, Harper had been family since the day Ava was born, maybe even before that. "When I have her," Liam said, "can you come over for dinner? Like a date? Like a family dinner. I want to..." I need to see what this looks like, the three of us, in my space. Harper studied him carefully. You're sure? I'm terrified. But yeah, I'm sure. Okay. When? Tuesday? I'll be there. They sat in companionable silence, watching people move through the park. Liam felt something shift in his chest. Not a dramatic change, but a subtle realignment, like pieces clicking into place that had been slightly off kilter his entire adult life. This could work. They could make this work. Ava stirred, blinking awake. Did I fall asleep? Just for a minute, Harper said. I told you I wasn't tired. You were right, clearly. They gathered their things and walked to the parking lot. Ava held both their hands again, swinging between them, oblivious to the fact that her father and godmother were navigating entirely new territory with every step. At Harper's car, Ava hugged her goodbye with the casual affection of someone who'd see her again soon. Because of course she would. Harper was always there. See you Tuesday, Harper said to Liam, her voice carrying layers of meaning. Tuesday, he confirmed. He watched her drive away, then buckled Ava into her car seat. His daughter was already asking about what movie they could watch when they got home, her mind moving to the next thing. But Liam was still thinking about Harper, about the way she'd looked at him in the restaurant, the way she'd stroked Ava's hair, the way she'd said, I am family, with such quiet certainty. As he drove home, Ava chattering in the back seat, Liam made a decision. He was done being afraid, done protecting himself from happiness because he was scared it wouldn't last. Harper had been loving him for 3 years. She'd been part of his life for 15. If that wasn't proof of permanence, what was? Tuesday couldn't come fast enough. Tuesday arrived with the weight of anticipation hanging over every hour. Liam had cleaned his apartment twice, rearranged the living room furniture, then put it back the way it was. He'd planned the menu 3 times before settling on pasta. Safe, familiar, something Ava would actually eat without complaint. By 5 o'clock, he was questioning everything. The apartment was too small. The lighting was too harsh. He should have ordered takeout instead of attempting to cook. What was he trying to prove? Daddy, you're being weird. Ava looked up from her coloring book, crayon poised mid-stroke. I'm not being weird. You've checked the oven like 100 times and nothing's in it. She had him there. I'm just making sure it works properly. It worked yesterday. Things change. Ava gave him the look, the one that said she was 6 years old but saw right through his nonsense. She'd perfected that expression around age 4, probably learned it from watching him and Harper banter for her entire life. Is Harper coming over? She asked. Yeah, for dinner. That's not weird. Harper comes over all the time. I know. So why are you being weird about it? Liam didn't have a good answer for that. Or rather, he had an answer he couldn't share with his 6-year-old daughter. Because tonight wasn't just dinner with Harper. It was the first time they'd be alone together, really alone, since everything changed. Sure, Ava would be there, but bedtime was at 8:30, and then it would just be him and the woman he'd somehow fallen in love with without noticing. The woman who'd been in love with him for 3 years while he'd been too scared or stupid to see it. His phone buzzed. Harper. On my way. Need me to bring anything? Just yourself, he typed back, then immediately felt like an idiot. Too sentimental? Not sentimental enough? This was Harper. He'd texted her 1,000 times without overthinking it. Why was everything different now? Because everything was different now. The doorbell rang at exactly 6 o'clock. Harper was constitutionally incapable of being late, a trait Liam had always appreciated, but tonight made him acutely aware he'd run out of time to spiral. Ava beat him to the door, flinging it open with her usual enthusiasm. Harper! Hey, troublemaker! Harper stepped inside, arms full. She had a bottle of wine in one hand and what looked like a bakery box in the other. Her hair was down tonight, falling past her shoulders in a way that made Liam's brain temporarily forget how to form words. She looked beautiful. She always looked beautiful, but he was noticing it now in a way that felt both new and like something he'd been deliberately ignoring for years. I brought dessert, Harper said, holding up the box. And wine for the adults. What kind of dessert? Ava was already reaching for the box. Cannoli from that Italian place you like. The one with the crunchy shell? Is there any other kind? Ava cheered, then immediately returned to her coloring book, Crisis Averted. Harper met Liam's eyes over his daughter's head, and something passed between them: amusement, nervousness, the shared knowledge that they were about to navigate completely uncharted territory while pretending everything was normal. "Hey," Harper said softly. "Hey." Liam took the wine and bakery box, acutely aware of how close she was standing, close enough that he could smell her perfume, something light and floral that he'd never consciously noticed before, but now realized he'd recognize anywhere. He wanted to kiss her. Right there in the entryway with Ava 10 feet away, and pasta sauce simmering on the stove. Wanted to pull her close and verify that last Thursday actually happened, that the way she felt in his arms wasn't something his desperate brain had invented. But Ava was coloring, and they'd agreed to be careful, and kissing Harper in the entryway seemed like the opposite of careful. "Something smells amazing," Harper said, breaking the moment. "Pasta, nothing fancy. Your pasta is always fancy. Remember that time you made it from scratch, and we had flour everywhere? That was your fault. You started the flour fight. I did no such thing. That was entirely Ava." "I was 3, Ava called from the living room. "I don't remember." Harper laughed, moving past him into the kitchen. She knew where everything was, had been in this apartment enough times that she could navigate it blindfolded. She opened the correct cabinet for wine glasses without asking, checked the pasta with the ease of someone who'd cooked in his kitchen before. This was familiar. This was safe. They'd done this dance 100 times, except now Liam couldn't stop watching the way she moved, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she leaned over to check the sauce, the way she hummed quietly while she worked, some melody he didn't recognize but found himself wanting to memorize. "You're staring," Harper said without looking up. "I'm supervising." "You're staring. Can't I supervise by staring?" She glanced at him then, eyes warm with amusement. "You're allowed to stare. Just warning you that you're doing it." Dinner prep took another 20 minutes. Harper set the table while Liam finished the pasta, and Ava provided running commentary on her coloring project, an elaborate scene involving what appeared to be a princess, a dragon, and a spaceship. "Does the princess live in space?" Harper asked, studying the drawing seriously. "No, the dragon does. The princess is visiting?" "That makes perfect sense." They sat down to eat, Ava between them, chattering about her day at school. A boy named Connor had brought in a salamander for show and tell. Her teacher had started a new chapter book about a girl who could talk to animals. The cafeteria had served pizza that wasn't as good as Giovanni's, but was still acceptable. Liam watched Harper engage with every story, asking follow-up questions, laughing at the funny parts, treating Ava's 6-year-old observations like they mattered. This was what she did. This was who she was. Present, interested, real. "Can Harper read me my bedtime story tonight?" Ava asked, around a mouthful of pasta. Liam glanced at Harper, who shrugged. "If that's okay with your dad." Of course it's okay. It was more than okay. It would give him extra time to clean up, to prepare mentally for the conversation he knew they needed to have. The one about what they were doing, where this was going, how to navigate the impossible complexity of turning 15 years of friendship into something more. After dinner, Harper and Ava disappeared into Ava's room while Liam tackled the dishes. He could hear their voices through the wall, Harper reading in different character voices, Ava giggling at the funny parts. The sound filled his apartment with a warmth that had nothing to do with the running hot water. This could be his life. This exact scene, every night. Harper reading to Ava while he cleaned up dinner. The three of them existing in this perfect domestic bubble, if he didn't mess it up. The thought was there before he could stop it, bringing with it all his familiar anxieties. He was good at messing things up. His marriage had imploded. His early attempts at dating after Sophie left had been disasters. What made him think he could do this right? "Stop it!" Harper's voice came from behind him. Liam turned to find her leaning against the kitchen doorframe, arms crossed, expression knowing. "Stop what?" "Whatever spiral you're in. I can see it on your face." "I wasn't spiraling." "You were definitely spiraling." She moved into the kitchen, picking up a dish towel. "Ava's out. She made it through 3 pages before crashing. New record." She had a big day. They worked in silence for a few minutes, falling into the rhythm they'd established over years of shared meals and cleanup. Harper washed, Liam dried. It was comfortable. Easy. Exactly the way things had always been. Except Liam was hyper-aware of every time their hands brushed, every time Harper shifted closer to reach the sink, the way she bit her lip when she concentrated on scrubbing a particularly stubborn pot. "Okay," Harper said finally, setting down the last dish. "We need to talk." That's never a good way to start a conversation. It's not a bad talk, it's just a necessary one. She dried her hands, then turned to face him fully. "Liam, I need to know what you're thinking, really thinking, not what you think I want to hear." He leaned against the counter, buying time. "I'm thinking this is the most terrified I've been since the day Ava was born. Because? Because I care about you too much to screw this up. Because Ava adores you, and if we try this and it doesn't work, she loses you. Because I have an excellent track record of destroying relationships, and I can't—" His voice cracked. "I can't lose you, Harper. I can't lose what we have." Harper stepped closer, close enough that he could count the flecks of gold in her eyes. "So we don't lose it. It's not that simple." "Why not? We've been in each other's lives for 15 years. We've survived everything else. Why can't we survive this?" "Because romantic relationships are different. They end. They fall apart. People get tired of each other, or realize they want different things, or just stop trying. People like Sophie." The name landed like a stone. Liam flinched. Harper's expression softened. "I'm not her, Liam. I know you're scared because she left, because she decided being a mother and being your wife was too hard. But I'm not Sophie. I never have been. I know that." "Do you? Because from where I'm standing, it seems like you're expecting me to leave, like you're just waiting for me to wake up one day and decide you're not worth the effort." "That's not—" He stopped. Was that what he was doing? Protecting himself from inevitable abandonment by sabotaging this before it could really begin? "I've been here for 3 years, Harper continued quietly. "Loving you, watching you date other women, pretending my heart didn't break a little every time you introduced me to someone new. I stayed, Liam, through all of it. What makes you think I'd leave now that I finally get to have you?" The words gutted him. 3 years. She'd been loving him silently for 3 years while he'd been oblivious. Dating women he'd never let get close because they weren't Harper. "I didn't know," he said helplessly. "I know you didn't. That's not your fault. But you know now. So you have to decide. Are you going to let fear run your life, or are you going to take a chance on something that could actually make you happy?" Liam looked at her, really looked at her. At the woman who'd shown up at 2 a.m. when Ava had a fever, who'd helped him assemble furniture and sat through terrible children's movies and learned Ava's favorite foods without being asked, who'd woven herself so thoroughly into his life that he couldn't remember what it felt like before she was in it. "I'm already happy," he said. "Being with you makes me happy. It always has." "Then what are you afraid of?" "Losing it. Losing this." He gestured between them. "What if we try and it doesn't work? What if the romantic stuff ruins the friendship stuff? And what if it doesn't? What if it makes everything better?" "You can't know that." "You're right, I can't. Neither can you. But we can decide to try anyway. We can decide that what we have is worth the risk." She made it sound so simple, so straightforward, like choosing to be happy was just a matter of deciding to do it. But maybe it was that simple. Maybe he'd been overcomplicating it, building up obstacles that didn't need to exist. "I don't want to do this halfway," Liam said. "If we're going to try, I need to be all in. I need to know you're all in too." "I've been all in for 3 years, Liam. I'm just waiting for you to catch up." Something in his chest loosened. Harper wasn't going anywhere. She'd proven that already. She'd been proving it for years. He closed the distance between them, cupping her face in his hands. "I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. I'm sorry you had to wait. You were worth waiting for." He kissed her then, soft and slow and full of promise. This was real. This was happening. Harper loved him, and he loved her. And maybe that was enough to build something lasting on. When they broke apart, Harper was smiling. "So we're doing this?" "We're doing this. All in. Terrified and all in. That's my favorite combination." They moved to the couch, sitting close enough that their knees touched. Liam found Harper's hand, lacing their fingers together, marveling at how natural it felt. How right. "We need to tell Ava eventually," Harper said. We can't keep this a secret forever. I know. I just want to make sure we're solid first, that we're not just caught up in the newness of it. How long do you think that will take? Liam considered. A month? 2 months? I don't know. Long enough that we're sure. I'm already sure. You've had 3 years to be sure. I've had 3 days. Harper laughed, squeezing his hand. Fair point. Okay. We take our time. We figure out what this looks like. And when we're both ready, we talk to Ava together. Together, Liam agreed. They talked for hours, curled up on the couch in Liam's dimly lit living room, about boundaries and expectations and what they needed from each other, about how to navigate seeing each other regularly without making Ava suspicious, about the logistics of dating when you were a single parent with a demanding career and a 6-year-old who noticed everything. It should have been awkward, should have felt forced or uncomfortable, but it didn't, because this was Harper, and talking to her had always been easy. What about physical stuff? Harper asked, and Liam nearly choked on the water he'd been drinking. What about it? We should probably establish boundaries about what's okay when Ava's around versus when we're alone. Right. Boundaries. Good idea. Harper's eyes danced with amusement. Are you blushing? I'm not blushing. You're definitely blushing. We're adults, Liam. We can talk about this. I know we can talk about it. I just wasn't expecting to talk about it right now. When were you expecting to talk about it? Never? Eventually? I don't know. Harper shifted closer, her expression turning serious. I need to know where your head is with this. Because I've thought about it, Liam. I've thought about you, about us. And I don't want to move too fast or too slow. I just want to move at whatever pace feels right for both of us. The honesty in her voice steadied him. I want you, he admitted, but I also want to do this right. I don't want to rush into something physical and lose sight of building the emotional foundation. So we take it slow. Slow-ish. I'm not suggesting we become celibate monks. That's good, because I'd make a terrible monk. They smiled at each other, and Liam felt something settle in his chest. They could do this. They could figure it out together. Can I ask you something? Harper said after a moment. Anything. Why did you really propose? That night with the bookshelf. What made you say it? Liam thought back to that moment, exhausted and covered in sawdust, looking at Harper surrounded by the chaos of their project. I think part of me knew, he admitted. Subconsciously. I think I'd been in love with you for a while and just couldn't admit it. So it came out as a joke because that felt safer than acknowledging the truth. Which is that I can't imagine doing any of this without you. Building furniture, raising Ava, navigating life. You're the person I want beside me for all of it. Harper's eyes were bright with unshed tears. That's the most romantic thing you've ever said to me. I'm just getting started. She kissed him then, soft and sweet and full of promise. When she pulled back, she was smiling. I should probably go. It's late. Liam glanced at the clock. Nearly midnight. Where had the time gone? You could stay, he heard himself say. On the couch. Or the guest room. It's late and I don't like the idea of you driving home this tired. Harper studied him carefully. Is that a good idea? Probably not. But I'm asking anyway. What about Ava? What if she sees me here in the morning? She's seen you here in the morning before. After girls' nights and holidays. She won't think anything of it. Harper considered this, then nodded. Okay. But I'm taking the guest room. We're taking this slow, remember? I remember. Liam found Harper clean sheets and a spare toothbrush, trying not to think too hard about the significance of her staying over. It wasn't a big deal. They were adults. Friends stayed over all the time. Except Harper wasn't just his friend anymore. Good night, Liam, she said at the guest room door. Good night. He made it 3 steps toward his own room before turning back. Harper was still standing there, watching him with an expression that made his heart skip. One more? He asked. She didn't ask what he meant, just crossed the distance between them and kissed him like she'd been waiting for permission. It was deeper than the others, tinged with want and restraint in equal measure. When they broke apart, both breathing harder, Harper pressed her forehead to his. Slow is going to be hard. Impossible, Liam agreed, but worth it. Definitely worth it. They said goodnight again, and this time Liam made it to his room. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, knowing Harper was just down the hall, and felt something like peace settle over him. This was real. This was happening. And for the first time in years, Liam Parker wasn't afraid of what came next. He woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of Ava's laughter. For a disoriented moment, he couldn't place what was different. Then he remembered. Harper had stayed over. He found them in the kitchen, Ava perched on the counter in her pajamas while Harper made pancakes. The scene was so domestic, so right, that Liam had to stop in the doorway just to take it in. "Morning, sleepyhead," Harper said without turning around. "How did you know I was here?" "You breathe loudly." "I do not breathe loudly." "You totally do," Ava confirmed. "It's like this." She demonstrated with an exaggerated breathing sound that made Harper laugh. "I'm being attacked in my own kitchen." "You're being accurately described in your own kitchen," Harper corrected, flipping a pancake with practiced ease. Liam poured himself coffee, settling at the table to watch them work. Ava was chattering about a dream she'd had involving talking cats and a magical library. Harper was listening with complete attention, asking questions, making Ava feel heard. This could be every morning, this exact scene. Waking up to find Harper in his kitchen, making breakfast for his daughter like she belonged there. Because she did belong there. She always had. "Earth to Daddy," Ava waved her hand in front of his face. "Harper asked you a question." "Sorry, what?" "I asked if you wanted chocolate chips in your pancakes," Harper said, eyes dancing with amusement. She knew exactly where his mind had been. Chocolate chips sound perfect. They ate breakfast together, and it felt so natural that Liam almost forgot they were navigating completely new territory. Almost forgot that 48 hours ago, he and Harper were just friends. After breakfast, Harper helped clean up, then announced she needed to head home to change before work. "Bye, Harper." Ava hugged her at the door. "Thanks for the pancakes. Anytime, troublemaker." Liam walked Harper to her car, acutely aware that Ava was probably watching from the window. "Last night was good," Harper said softly. "It was. We're okay? We're better than okay." She smiled, squeezing his hand quickly before getting in her car. No kiss, nothing that Ava could see and question, just a smile that held all the promise of what they were building. Liam watched her drive away, then turned to find Ava standing in the doorway. "Harper's nice," she said. "She is. I'm glad she's your friend." "Me too, sweetheart." Ava studied him with those too perceptive 6-year-old eyes. "Are you happy, Daddy?" The question caught him off guard. "Yeah, I am. Why do you ask?" She shrugged. "You've been smiling a lot. More than usual." Liam crouched down to her level. "Is that okay? That I'm happy?" "It's good. I like when you smile." He pulled her into a hug, breathing in the strawberry scent of her shampoo, feeling the weight of responsibility and love press against his chest. He was doing this for himself, yes, but also for her. Because Ava deserved to see her father actually live instead of just survive. "I love you, kiddo, he said. "I love you too, Daddy. Even when you breathe loudly." Liam laughed, tickling her until she squealed. And in that moment, surrounded by his daughter's joy and the lingering warmth of Harper's presence, he felt something shift. He wasn't just hoping anymore. He was believing that this could work, that he could have more than just stability, that love didn't have to mean loss, that maybe, just maybe, the best part of his life was just beginning. The next 3 weeks unfolded like a carefully choreographed dance. Liam and Harper maintained their usual routines, the park's visits, the casual dinners, the endless texts about nothing and everything, while navigating an entirely new undercurrent that thrummed beneath every interaction. They stole moments when they could. A kiss in Liam's kitchen while Ava was absorbed in a cartoon. Harper's hand finding his under the table at restaurants. Late-night phone calls after Ava was asleep. Voices low and intimate in the darkness. It was exhilarating and terrifying in equal measure. Liam found himself noticing things he'd somehow missed before. The way Harper's nose crinkled when she laughed hard. How she always ordered decaf after 6 p.m. but never mentioned it. The small scar on her left hand from a cooking accident when they were 23. All these details he'd cataloged unconsciously over 15 years were suddenly illuminated, precious, essential. "You're doing it again," Marcus said over lunch at their usual spot downtown. Liam looked up from his phone, where he'd been reading a text from Harper about something funny Ava had said. Doing what? That smile. The one that says, you're not actually here with me, you're thinking about her. I'm having lunch with you. Your body is having lunch with me. Your brain is somewhere else entirely. Marcus leaned back, studying him with open amusement. How's it going? The whole secret relationship thing? It's not a secret, we're just being careful. Semantics. How's it going? Liam set down his phone, considering. Good, really good actually, better than I expected. But? There's no but. There's always a but with you. Marcus wasn't wrong. Liam had spent the past 3 weeks waiting for the other shoe to drop, for the honeymoon phase to wear off, for them to discover they were better as friends than as whatever they were trying to be now. But it hadn't happened. If anything, being with Harper felt more natural than any relationship he'd ever been in. They already knew each other's rhythms, each other's quirks. There was no awkward getting-to-know-you phase, no pretending to be better versions of themselves. I keep waiting for it to feel wrong, Liam admitted. For us to realize we made a mistake. But it doesn't. It just feels like everything finally makes sense. That's good, right? It's terrifying. Marcus laughed. You're going to have to explain that logic to me. If this works, if we actually work, then I wasted years being miserable and alone when I could have had this. And if it doesn't work, I lose the most important person in my life besides Ava. So you're trapped in a paradox of your own making, basically. Here's a radical idea, Marcus said, stealing a fry from Liam's plate. Stop thinking about what could go wrong and just enjoy what's going right. Easier said than done. Most things worth doing are. They finished lunch discussing safer topics. Marcus's ongoing battle with his toddler's sleep schedule, Liam's nightmare client who'd requested their 7th round of revisions. But Marcus's words stayed with him. Stop thinking about what could go wrong. If only it were that simple. That evening, Harper came over for dinner again. It had become their Thursday tradition, though now it carried different weight. Ava had stopped questioning it. Harper had always been around, so why would this be unusual? They made tacos together, Ava helping by creating elaborate toppings combinations that shouldn't work but somehow did. After dinner, Harper challenged Ava to a game of checkers that somehow turned into an epic battle spanning 45 minutes. Liam watched from his kitchen, cleaning up dishes, struck by how seamlessly Harper fit into their lives. She wasn't trying to be Ava's mother, she was just Harper, present, engaged, authentic. Checkmate, Ava crowed. That's chess, troublemaker. This is checkers. Then, checkers mate? Harper laughed, the sound filling the apartment. Sure, checkers mate. You win. I always win. Your confidence is inspiring and slightly concerning. After Ava's bedtime routine, Harper stayed. They'd fallen into this pattern, Harper finding reasons to linger after Ava was asleep, and Liam finding reasons to encourage it. Tonight, they ended up on the couch, Harper's legs draped over Liam's lap, talking about everything and nothing. Ava asked me something today, Harper said, her tone casual, but her expression careful. Yeah? She wanted to know if I was ever going to get married. Liam's hand stilled where it had been absently tracing patterns on Harper's ankle. What did you tell her? That I hadn't found the right person yet. Then she asked what I was looking for. And? I told her someone kind, someone who made me laugh, someone who showed up when things were hard. Liam met her eyes. That sounds like a pretty specific list. I've had a lot of time to think about it. The weight of her words settled between them. 3 years. She'd been thinking about this for 3 years while he'd been oblivious, dating women who never stood a chance because they weren't Harper. Do you ever resent me? He asked quietly. For taking so long to figure it out? Harper shifted, sitting up straighter so she could face him properly. No, never. You weren't ready, and pushing you before you were ready would have ruined everything. You sound very sure of that. I am sure. Because I know you, Liam. If I'd confessed my feelings 2 years ago, you would have panicked. You would have pulled away to protect our friendship. You had to come to this on your own. She was probably right. Even 3 weeks ago, if Harper had told him she loved him without him making that stupid joke about marriage, he might have retreated, might have convinced himself they were better off as friends. But that accidental proposal had cracked something open, had made him actually examine what he felt instead of just reflexively categorizing Harper as off-limits. "I'm glad I said it," he told her, "even if it was the world's worst proposal. Second worst, there's a guy on the internet who proposed via interpretive dance and it did not go well." "How do you even know that?" "YouTube rabbit holes at 2 a.m. "What were you doing awake at 2 a.m.? Harper looked away, but not before he caught something in her expression. "Thinking." "About?" "You. Us. Whether I was crazy for holding out hope." The admission hurt more than it should have. 3 years of Harper lying awake, wondering if Liam would ever see her. 3 years of quiet heartbreak while she smiled and showed up and pretended everything was fine. "I'm sorry," he said. "Stop apologizing. We're here now. That's what matters." Liam pulled her closer, pressing a kiss to her temple. "I don't deserve you. We've been over this. That's objectively false. I'm being serious." "So am I. You're a good man, Liam Parker, a good father, a good friend. The fact that you can't see it doesn't make it less true." He wanted to argue, but Harper's expression said the discussion was closed. Instead, he kissed her, slow and deep, and full of things he didn't have words for yet. When they broke apart, Harper was smiling. "We should talk about the elephant in the room." "Which elephant? There are several." "When we're going to tell Ava." There it was. The conversation Liam had been both anticipating and avoiding. They'd agreed to wait until they were sure, until the relationship felt solid enough to introduce into Ava's world. But how did you measure that? How did you know when the timing was right? "I think we should wait a little longer," Liam said carefully. "We've only been doing this for 3 weeks. Officially. But we've been basically doing this for years. We just added kissing. And dating. And the whole romantic relationship thing. Which has changed exactly nothing about how we interact. Ava already sees us together constantly. She's already attached to both of us. Telling her just makes it official." Harper had a point, but Liam's protective instincts were screaming caution. What if she's confused? What if it's too much change too fast? Or what if she's relieved? She's been asking me why we're not together since she learned what relationships were. She asks everyone of that. Last month she asked why I wasn't dating her teacher. That's different. Miss Rodriguez was objectively checking you out at parent-teacher conferences. It was not. Liam stopped. Wait, really? Oh my God, you're oblivious. Yes, really. But that's not the point. The point is that Ava's been shipping us for years. I don't think this will be the shock you're afraid it will be. Liam wanted to believe her. Wanted to trust that his daughter would handle this with the resilience she'd shown with everything else life had thrown at her. But the fear was there, persistent, whispering that he was being selfish, that putting his happiness above Ava's stability made him a bad father. "Can we at least wait until after her dance recital?" he asked. "I don't want to overwhelm her right before a big event." Harper studied him for a long moment, and Liam braced himself for pushback. But she just nodded. "Okay, after the recital. But Liam, we can't hide this forever, and we shouldn't have to." "I know." They settled back into comfortable silence, but the conversation lingered in the air between them. Harper was right. They couldn't keep this a secret indefinitely. Eventually, something would slip. Ava would notice a look that lasted too long or a touch that was too familiar. The recital was Saturday, 4 days away. He could hold it together for 4 more days. The next morning, Liam woke to find 17 missed calls from Patricia. His heart immediately kicked into overdrive. Something was wrong. Something had happened to Ava. He called back with shaking hands. Patricia answered on the first ring. "Finally, I've been trying to reach you for an hour." "Is Ava okay?" "What?" "Yes, she's fine. She's at school." The relief was dizzying. "Then why?" "I need to talk to you about Harper." Liam's brain screeched to a halt. "What about Harper?" "Don't play dumb, Liam. I've known you since you were 22. I can tell when something's changed." "I don't know what you're talking about." "You're in love with her, or you've finally admitted you're in love with her. I'm not sure which, but either way, it's about time." Liam sat down heavily on his bed. Of course Patricia knew. Patricia knew everything. She'd probably figured it out before he had. "How long have you known?" he asked. "That you loved her? Years. That she loved you?" About 6 months after Sophie left, when Harper showed up at the hospital with food and clean clothes and looked at you like you hung the moon. She did that as a friend. Nobody looks at their friend like that, Liam. I thought you'd figure it out eventually, but you're apparently determined to be stubborn about these things. Despite everything, Liam found himself smiling. You sound like Marcus. Marcus has good sense. So what's happening? Are you two together now? We're figuring it out. That's not an answer. Yes, we're together. We have been for about 3 weeks. Patricia made a satisfied sound. Good. That girl deserves to be happy. So do you. We haven't told Ava yet. Why not? Because I want to make sure it's solid first, that we're not just caught up in the excitement of something new. Liam, honey, you and Harper have been solid for 15 years. Adding romance doesn't change that foundation. If anything, it makes it stronger. But what if it doesn't? What if we try this and it ruins everything? And what if you don't try and spend the rest of your life wondering what if? Patricia's voice gentled. I know you're scared. You have every right to be, but you can't let fear stop you from being happy. Ava needs to see that. She needs to see her father taking chances and building a life, not just surviving. The words echoed what Marcus had said, what Harper had been trying to tell him, what some part of Liam had known all along but been too terrified to acknowledge. When were you planning to tell Ava? Patricia asked. After the recital. Harper wants to do it sooner, but I asked for more time. Don't wait too long. Kids are perceptive. She'll figure it out on her own if you're not careful. I know. And Liam, for what it's worth, I think you and Harper are perfect together. You always have been. You just needed to catch up to what everyone else already knew. After they hung up, Liam sat staring at his phone. Everyone knew. Marcus and Jennifer, Patricia. Probably half the parents at Ava's school who'd watched him and Harper dance around each other at pickup and drop-off. He'd thought they were being subtle. Turned out they'd been broadcasting their feelings to everyone except each other. His phone buzzed. Harper. Patricia just called me. She called you too? Apparently she's been waiting for this since forever. She's very excited. She told me we're perfect together. She's not wrong. You're biased. I'm accurate. There's a difference. Liam smiled at his phone, then made a decision. He called Harper. Hey, she answered. I'm at work. Can you? Let's tell her. Silence on the other end. Then, tell who what? Ava. Let's tell her about us. After the recital, like we planned. But let's actually do it. No more stalling. Liam, are you sure? I don't want you to feel pressured. I'm sure. Everyone else already knows. It's not fair to keep it from her. And you're right. She's not going to be shocked. She's probably been waiting for this longer than Patricia has. Harper laughed, the sound warm and relieved. Okay, after the recital, we'll tell her together. Together, Liam confirmed. He spent the next few days in a state of nervous anticipation. The recital loomed larger in his mind than it probably should have, not because of Ava's performance, but because of what came after. The conversation that would change everything. Saturday arrived with perfect weather. Sunny but not too hot, the kind of day that made Liam want to believe in good omens. Ava was vibrating with excitement from the moment she woke up, talking a mile a minute about the performance while Liam tried to manage her pre-show jitters and his own anxiety about the conversation to come. Harper arrived at their apartment at noon to help with Ava's hair and makeup. The recital wasn't until 3, but Ava had insisted on starting preparations early. Sit still, troublemaker, Harper said, attempting to wrangle Ava's hair into the required bun. I am sitting still. You're vibrating. That's the opposite of still. I'm excited. I can tell. Liam watched from the doorway, his heart doing something complicated in his chest. This scene, Harper doing Ava's hair while his daughter chattered about the performance, felt like a glimpse of a future he hadn't known he wanted until recently. A future where Harper was here every morning. Where she helped with dance recitals and school projects and all the 1,000 small moments that made up a life. You're staring again, Harper said without looking up. I'm supervising. You're definitely staring. Ava twisted to look at him. Why are you being weird, Daddy? I'm not being weird. You're being a little weird, Harper agreed. I'm just proud of you, Liam told Ava. Excited to see you perform. This seemed to satisfy her. She turned back to let Harper finish her hair, launching into a detailed explanation of the dance choreography that Liam understood approximately none of. The recital itself was held at the community theater downtown. Liam had been to enough of these events to know the drill. Arrive early to get good seats, prepare for an hour of various age groups performing, try to stay awake during the parts that didn't feature your own kid. He and Harper found seats in the third row, saving one for Patricia, who was running late from a book club meeting. The theater filled up around them, parents with cameras, grandparents with flowers, siblings fidgeting in their seats. Nervous? Harper asked. For Ava, always. She's going to be great. She's been practicing for weeks. Patricia arrived 10 minutes before the show started, slightly out of breath and carrying an enormous bouquet. Sorry, Carol wouldn't stop talking about her new diet. You're fine, Liam assured her. Show hasn't started yet. Patricia settled into her seat, then glanced between him and Harper with knowing eyes. So, you two look cozy. We're sitting in theater seats, Patricia. Everyone's cozy. Sure. The lights dimmed before Liam could formulate a response. The show began with the youngest group, 4- and 5-year-olds who were adorable, if not particularly coordinated. Then the next age group, slightly more polished. Each performance was met with enthusiastic applause from proud parents. Finally, Ava's group took the stage. Liam's heart kicked into overdrive the moment he spotted her, third from the left, face serious with concentration, waiting for the music to start. The performance was 2 minutes long, but felt like both an instant and an eternity. Ava moved through the choreography with careful precision, only stumbling once during a turn. Liam barely breathed the entire time. When it ended and the audience erupted into applause, Liam found himself on his feet, clapping harder than was probably necessary. Beside him, Harper was doing the same, and Patricia was wielding her bouquet like a weapon in her enthusiasm. "That's my granddaughter," Patricia announced to no one in particular. After the show, they waited in the lobby for Ava to emerge from backstage. When she finally appeared, still in her costume, Liam swept her into a hug. "You were amazing." "Really? Really, you were perfect. I messed up the turn. Nobody noticed." "I noticed. Then you're the only one. Everyone else was too busy watching how great you were." Harper presented her with a small stuffed unicorn, Ava's current favorite animal, and Patricia handed over the massive bouquet. Ava's face lit up with pure joy. "These are for me?" "All for you," Patricia confirmed. "You earned them." They took pictures in the theater lobby, Ava posing with her flowers and her unicorn, still riding the high of performance adrenaline. Other parents complimented her dancing. Her teacher praised her dedication. Liam watched it all with a sense of pride so fierce it almost hurt. This was his daughter, 6 years old and already so brave, so willing to put herself out there despite the risk of failure. If Ava could be that brave, surely he could too. After the chaos of the recital settled, they went to Giovanni's for a celebratory lunch. Ava was still buzzing with excitement, recounting every moment of the performance in exhaustive detail. And then when Maria forgot her part, we all had to improvise. But Mrs. Chen said that's what real dancers do. They adapt. She kept talking through most of the meal, barely pausing to eat her pizza. Liam caught Harper's eye across the table, saw his own nervous anticipation reflected there. After the recital, they'd agreed. The time was now. But how did you start that conversation? How did you tell your 6-year-old daughter that her father and godmother were in love without making it weird or scary or confusing? As if sensing his thoughts, Harper reached under the table and squeezed his hand. A reminder, together. They were doing this together. After lunch, Patricia begged off, claiming exhaustion and a need to get home before traffic got bad. Liam suspected she knew what was coming and was deliberately giving them space. The three of them drove back to Liam's apartment, Ava finally winding down in the back seat. Harper followed in her own car, and Liam's heart hammered the entire drive home. This was it. No more delaying, no more excuses. Once inside the apartment, Ava immediately wanted to show them her performance again, a full reenactment in the living room. Liam and Harper watched dutifully, applauding at the right moments, buying time before the inevitable conversation. Finally, exhausted from her encore performance, Ava flopped onto the couch between them. "That was the best day," she declared. "I'm glad," Liam said. His mouth was dry. His heart was racing. This was harder than any conversation he'd ever had to have. Harper caught his eye, raising her eyebrows in question. Now? Liam nodded. Now. Hey, Ava, Harper said gently. Your dad and I wanted to talk to you about something. Ava sat up immediately, her expression shifting to concern. Am I in trouble? No, sweetheart, Liam assured her quickly. Nothing like that. You're not in any trouble. Then what? Liam glanced at Harper, who gave him an encouraging nod. He could do this. They could do this. You know how Harper is really important to both of us, right? He began. Yeah, she's my godmother and your best friend. Right. Well, something's changed recently. Something good. Harper and I, we're more than just friends now. Ava looked between them, processing. What do you mean? Harper picked up where Liam's words had failed. We mean that we care about each other in a special way. The way people do when they're dating. You're dating? Like boyfriend and girlfriend? Yeah, Liam said. Like that. Ava's face was unreadable. Liam's heart pounded, waiting for her reaction. This could go so many ways. She could be upset, confused, angry that they'd kept it from her. Finally! Ava threw her hands in the air with pure exasperation. I've been waiting forever. Liam blinked. You've been… what? I asked you like 100 times why Harper wasn't your girlfriend, and you always said it was complicated or whatever. I thought you were never going to figure it out. Harper started laughing, the sound bubbling out of her with relief and amusement. You knew? Not knew, but I hoped. You guys are always together anyway. You should be together. Liam felt like he'd been hit by a truck. All this anxiety, all this careful planning, and Ava had been rooting for them all along. So you're okay with this? He asked, needing to be absolutely sure. Okay? Daddy, this is awesome. Does this mean Harper's going to be here all the time now? Would you want that? Harper asked carefully. Duh. You make the best pancakes, and you're way better at braiding than Daddy. I've been practicing my braiding, Liam protested weakly. You're getting better, but Harper's still better. He couldn't even argue with that. Ava turned to Harper with an expression of utmost seriousness. Does this mean you're going to be my mom? The question hung in the air, heavy with implication. Liam saw Harper's eyes widen, saw her carefully measuring her response. I'm not trying to replace your mom, Harper said gently, but I'll be here. For you and your dad. Whatever you need, however you want this to work. But you love us? So much. And you're not going to leave? The question broke Liam's heart. This was what Ava worried about, underneath all her 6-year-old bravado. That people left. That love meant abandonment. Harper took Ava's hands in hers, meeting her eyes with complete sincerity. I'm not going anywhere. I promise. I've been in your life since the day you were born, and I'm going to be in it for as long as you want me. Forever? If that's what you want. Ava seemed to consider this. Then she threw her arms around Harper's neck, hugging her with the fierce intensity only children could manage. I want forever, she said, voice muffled against Harper's shoulder. Liam watched them, his heart so full it felt like it might burst. This was his family. This strange, beautiful, perfectly imperfect family he'd somehow managed to build. And for the first time since Sophie left, Liam Parker felt like he wasn't just surviving, he was living. When Ava finally pulled back from the hug, her face was bright with something Liam hadn't seen in a long time. Uncomplicated joy. Not the careful happiness of a child who'd learned too young that love could be temporary, but the pure, unguarded delight of someone who'd just gotten exactly what they'd been hoping for. Can we tell Grammy? Ava asked, already bouncing with excitement. And can I tell Connor at school? He's always talking about his mom and dad, and now I can say, slow down, sweetheart, Liam said, though he was smiling. Yes, we can tell Grammy, but maybe let's give it a day before you announce it to your entire first-grade class? Ava's face fell slightly. Why? Harper squeezed her shoulder gently. Because your dad and I are still figuring some things out, and we want to make sure we do this right, for all of us. But you're together now. What else is there to figure out? It was a fair question, delivered with the straightforward logic of a 6-year-old who hadn't yet learned that adult relationships were complicated. Liam found himself without a good answer. Well, Harper said carefully, We need to figure out things like how often I'll be here, and what our routines will look like, and how to make sure everyone feels comfortable with all the changes. You should be here all the time, Ava stated as if this were obvious. You practically live here anyway. Liam caught Harper's eye over Ava's head. They hadn't talked about that yet, hadn't discussed the practical logistics of merging their lives beyond stolen kisses and late-night phone calls. That's something your dad and I will talk about, Harper said diplomatically. But no matter what, I'm going to be around a lot. That's not changing. This seemed to satisfy Ava for the moment. She launched into a detailed plan for how they should celebrate. Ice cream, obviously, and maybe a movie. And could they please get a dog now, because families with 2 parents should definitely have a dog. We've talked about the dog thing, Liam reminded her. I know, but that was when it was just us. Now there's 3 of us. 3 people can handle a dog. The number of people doesn't change the size of our apartment. We could get a small dog. Ava, a really, really small dog, like one of those tiny ones that fits in a purse. Harper was trying not to laugh. Liam shot her a look that said, "You're not helping," and she shrugged innocently. Tell you what, Liam said, let's table the dog discussion for now and focus on the ice cream part of your plan. Ava considered this. Okay, but we're coming back to the dog thing. I have no doubt. They ended up at the ice cream place 3 blocks away, the one that made their own flavors and let you sample as many as you wanted. Ava took this privilege very seriously, trying 6 different options before settling on her usual, cookie dough with rainbow sprinkles. Liam and Harper got their orders, and they claimed a table by the window. The evening sun cast long shadows across the sidewalk, painting everything in warm amber light. Families walked by, couples held hands. The city continued its endless rhythm of life unfolding. This is nice, Harper said quietly, watching Ava attack her ice cream with single-minded determination. Yeah, Liam agreed. It is. You were worried for nothing, you know, about telling her. I know, but I'm allowed to worry. It's in the dad handbook. Is that the same handbook that says you have to make terrible jokes? That's chapter 3. Harper smiled and Liam felt something settle in his chest. They'd cleared the first hurdle. Ava knew, and not only was she okay with it, she was thrilled. One less thing to fear. But there were still questions to answer, big ones about the future and how they'd build this life together. Questions Liam wasn't sure he was ready to face, but knew he couldn't avoid forever. As if reading his mind, Harper said, "We should probably talk, really talk, about what this looks like going forward." I know. Not tonight. You're exhausted. Ava's running on performance adrenaline, and I have an early meeting tomorrow, but soon? Soon, Liam promised. They finished their ice cream and walked back to the apartment as dusk settled over the city. Ava held both their hands, swinging between them, chattering about her day. It was such a normal scene, the kind they'd done 100 times before. But everything felt different now. Lighter, somehow. Like a weight Liam hadn't fully acknowledged carrying had been lifted. At the apartment, Harper said goodbye with the same casual affection she always had. But when Ava ran to her room to change out of her recital costume, Harper pulled Liam close and kissed him, soft and sweet and full of promise. "We did it," she whispered against his lips. "We did." How does it feel? Liam thought about it. Terrifying. Amazing. Like jumping off a cliff and finding out I can fly. That's very poetic for someone who claims not to be romantic. You bring it out in me. She kissed him again, then pulled back with a smile. I should go before Ava comes back and catches us making out like teenagers. Would that be so bad? Your daughter already thinks we're disgustingly cute. Let's not prove her right. After Harper left, Liam helped Ava through her bedtime routine. She was still buzzing with excitement, talking nonstop about the recital and Harper and whether they could get a dog. And wasn't it great that Harper would be around all the time now? "Daddy?" she said when he was tucking her in. "Yeah, sweetheart. Are you happy?" It was the second time she'd asked him that question. Liam wondered what she saw in him that made her keep checking. "I am," he said honestly. "Are you?" "So happy. I always wanted Harper to be part of our family for real. Not just godmother, but like, really part of it." "She's always been really part of it, Ava. The labels don't change that." "I know, but this is better." She yawned, her eyes already heavy. Love you, Daddy. Love you too, kiddo. He watched her fall asleep, her face peaceful in the dim glow of her nightlight. 6 years old and already so perceptive, so aware of the currents running beneath adult conversations. She'd known he and Harper belonged together before either of them had admitted it. Smart kid. Liam's phone buzzed as he was cleaning up the kitchen. Harper. Thank you for today, for trusting me with this. Thank you for being patient with me, he typed back, for waiting while I figured my shit out. Language. What if Ava sees that? She's asleep. And she's 6. She knows worse words. That's concerning. She goes to public school. I've made my peace with it. There was a pause. Then Harper sent another message. When do you want to have the big talk? About logistics and future stuff? Liam stared at the text. The big talk. The one where they figured out if Harper moved in or kept her apartment. Where they discussed timelines and expectations and all the practical realities of blending their lives. This weekend? He suggested. Ava will be at Patricia's Saturday night. It's a date, a serious, conversation-heavy date. Those are the best kind. You're a terrible liar. But you love me anyway. The words appeared on his screen before he'd fully processed what he was saying. He stared at them, heart pounding. Too much? Too soon? They'd only been officially together for a few weeks, even if they'd been dancing around it for years. Harper's response came quickly. I really, really do. Liam exhaled. Okay, they were doing this, actually saying the words, making it real. I love you too, he typed, in case that wasn't clear. It's becoming clearer, but I don't mind hearing it. Good, because I plan to say it a lot. That's very sappy of you. You bring out my sappy side, I'm aware. Good night, Liam. Good night, Harper. He set down his phone, smiling like an idiot. This was real. Harper loved him. Ava was thrilled. Everything was falling into place in a way that should have felt too good to be true, but somehow just felt right. The week passed in a blur of work deadlines and school pickups, and stolen moments with Harper. They were more open about their affection now, at least when Ava wasn't watching. Quick kisses in his kitchen, Harper's hand finding his under the table at dinner, the easy intimacy of people who'd known each other forever finally allowing themselves to show it. Marcus called midweek to demand details. So Ava knows now? How'd that go? She said finally and asked if we could get a dog. Marcus laughed. Sounds about right. And Harper? She must be relieved. She is. We both are. It's one less thing to navigate. What about the other things? What other things? Come on, man. You and Harper together means big decisions. Moving in together. Meeting each other's families officially. Long-term plans. We're taking it one step at a time. Which means you're freaking out about all of it. Liam couldn't really deny it. We're having a serious talk this weekend about all the logistics. Good. Don't overthink it. Harper's been in this with you for years. None of this is going to surprise her. That's what she said. Then listen to her. She's smarter than you. Everyone's smarter than me. I'm starting to accept it. Saturday arrived with the particular anticipation that came before important conversations. Liam dropped Ava at Patricia's in the afternoon, enduring his ex-mother-in-law's knowing looks and pointed comments about how happy he seemed lately. You and Harper finally figure things out? She asked as Ava ran inside to find the cookies Patricia had promised. We did. Good. That girl's been waiting long enough. Patricia paused. She's good for you, Liam. Good for both of you. Don't second-guess this to death. I'm trying not to. Try harder. Harper arrived at his apartment at 6, carrying takeout from the Thai place they both loved. They ate dinner, making small talk, both dancing around the real conversation. Finally, with empty containers pushed aside and wine poured, Harper broke the silence. Okay, we need to stop stalling and actually talk about this. I'm not stalling. You've reorganized the coffee table 3 times in the last 10 minutes. Liam looked down at the coasters he'd been absently rearranging. Fair point. Harper took his hand, grounding him. What are you afraid of? That we're moving too fast? That we'll rush into something and mess it up? We've known each other for 15 years. How is that rushing? You know what I mean. The relationship part is new. The living together, being a couple, all of it. So we take it at whatever pace feels right. There's no rule book that says we have to move in together next week or get engaged in 6 months. We figure it out as we go. Liam knew she was right. Knew that trying to plan every step was just another way of trying to control something inherently uncertain. But the fear was still there, whispering that he'd find a way to ruin this like he'd ruined his marriage. "I don't want to be Sophie," Harper said quietly, as if she could hear his thoughts. "I don't want you to keep expecting me to leave. At some point, you're going to have to trust that I mean it when I say I'm not going anywhere. I want to trust that, but Sophie said the same thing. Before Ava was born, she promised she was in it for the long haul, and then she left anyway." Harper was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was gentle but firm. "I'm not Sophie, and our relationship isn't your marriage. You and Sophie barely knew each other when she got pregnant. You got married because it seemed like the right thing to do, not because you were actually in love. We're different." "How can you be so sure?" "Because I've seen you at your worst, Liam. I've seen you exhausted and scared and barely holding it together. I've seen you screw up and succeed and everything in between. And I'm still here. That's how I know." The truth of her words settled over him. Harper had seen him fail, had seen him break down in his kitchen at 3 a.m., convinced he was destroying his daughter's life, had witnessed his mistakes and his fears, and all the ugly parts he tried to hide from the world, and she'd stayed. More than that, she'd loved him through all of it. "I'm sorry," he said, "for comparing you to her, for projecting my fears onto us. I know you're scared. You have every right to be. But I need you to work through it, Liam. I can't be in a relationship where you're always waiting for me to leave." "You're right." He squeezed her hand. "I'll work on it. I promise." Harper smiled. "Good. Now can we talk about the practical stuff? Because I've been thinking about this a lot." "Okay. What have you been thinking?" "I think I should keep my apartment for now. Give us time to make sure this works before we make any permanent changes." Liam felt a flash of disappointment, then realized she was being smart, cautious in a way that protected both of them. "That makes sense. But I want to spend more time here, officially, not just dropping by for dinner or staying over occasionally. I want to have a drawer and a toothbrush and all the boring domestic stuff that comes with being together." "You already have a drawer and a toothbrush." "I have the guest bathroom toothbrush. I want an official toothbrush. In your bathroom." Liam couldn't help but smile. "An official toothbrush. Got it." "I'm serious. I want to be part of your everyday life, yours and Ava's. Not just the fun weekend stuff, but the hard weekday stuff too. School mornings and homework battles and all of it." "You already are part of all that. As your friend. I want to be part of it as your partner." The word landed with weight. Partner, not girlfriend. That felt too casual for what they were building. Not wife. Too soon. Too much pressure. But partner. Someone who shared the load, who showed up for the hard stuff, who built a life alongside him rather than just visiting it occasionally. "I want that too," Liam said. "All of it." "Yeah?" "Yeah, move some stuff in, claim space in my bathroom, leave your shoes by the door. I want evidence of you everywhere." Harper laughed, the sound warm and relieved. "Careful what you wish for. I have a lot of shoes. I'll make room." They talked for hours, working through the details. How often Harper would stay over, how they'd handle Ava's questions as things evolved, whether Harper should officially move in eventually, or if they should look for a bigger place together. "What about meeting my family?" Harper asked. "Officially, I mean, as your girlfriend." Liam blinked. He'd met Harper's sister and parents dozens of times over the years, but never as someone dating their daughter. "Do they know about us?" "My sister figured it out. She's been texting me constantly demanding details. My parents don't know yet. I wanted to wait until we told Ava." "Are they going to be okay with this?" "Are you kidding? They love you. They've been not so subtly hinting for years that they hoped we'd get together. My mom's going to be insufferable about being right." "Looking forward to it already." "We could do dinner next weekend at their place. My sister and her husband will be there too." Liam felt the familiar flutter of nerves. Meeting the parents, even parents he already knew, felt significant, official. A declaration that this was real and serious and going somewhere. "Okay," he said. "Next weekend." Harper beamed. "Fair warning, my mom will definitely cry. She's very emotional about these things." Your mom cries at greeting card commercials. Exactly. So be prepared for waterworks. They settled back on the couch, Harper curled against Liam's side, both quiet for a while. Outside, the city hummed with Saturday night energy. Inside, everything felt peaceful. Right. Can I ask you something? Liam said. Always. When did you know that you loved me? Harper was quiet for a moment, thinking. I think I started falling that night with Ava's fever, when you broke down and let me see how scared you were. But I knew for sure about 6 months later. You remember that Saturday at the park when Ava learned to pump the swing herself? Liam remembered. Ava had been so proud, so determined to do it without help. You were watching her, Harper continued, and you had this look on your face, like she was the most amazing thing you'd ever seen, and I realized I wanted to spend the rest of my life watching you look at her like that. I wanted to be part of those moments, not as a visitor, but as someone who belonged there. You did belong there, you always have. I know that now. But back then I thought I was just the friend, the auxiliary support person. I didn't realize I could be more until I admitted to myself that I wanted to be. Liam pressed a kiss to the top of her head. I'm sorry I made you wait so long. Stop apologizing for that. You needed time. I understood. You're too understanding. You should be mad at me. I was mad. Sometimes, usually around 2 a.m. when I couldn't sleep and you'd texted me about some woman you'd gone on a date with. But mostly I was just patient, because I knew, or at least I hoped, that eventually you'd see what everyone else already saw. Which was that we're better together, that we've always been better together. Liam couldn't argue with that. Every good thing in his life for the past 15 years had Harper woven through it. Every triumph, every crisis, every ordinary Tuesday. She'd been there, making everything better, just by being present. I love you, he said, the words coming easier each time he said them. I love you too. They stayed like that for a long time, wrapped in each other and the peaceful quiet of knowing they'd figured something out. Not everything, there would always be more to figure out, more challenges to navigate. But they'd gotten through the hardest part. They'd been honest. They'd made a plan. They'd chosen each other. The rest would work itself out. The following weeks unfolded with surprising ease. Harper started leaving things at the apartment. Clothes in Liam's closet, toiletries in his bathroom, her favorite coffee mug in the kitchen. Small changes that added up to something significant. Ava took it all in stride, delighted by Harper's increased presence. She'd started calling Harper her bonus mom to friends at school, a term that made Harper tear up the first time she heard it. You okay with that? Liam asked later. The mom thing? More than okay. I know I'm not replacing Sophie, but if Ava wants to think of me that way, I'm honored. Meeting Harper's family officially went exactly as predicted. Her mother cried. Her father hugged Liam with slightly more force than necessary and told him he better not mess this up. Her sister demanded to know what took him so long and then immediately started planning a couples game night. Patricia, predictably, was thrilled. She'd started referring to Harper as her daughter-in-law, despite Liam's protests that they weren't married. Details, Patricia waved him off. You will be eventually. Might as well start practicing. 2 months in, Liam started thinking seriously about the future. Not in the anxious, fearful way he had before, but with genuine excitement. He caught himself looking at rings online, imagining proposals, thinking about what it would mean to make this official in every way. But he kept those thoughts to himself. They'd only been officially together for 2 months. Thinking about marriage was probably premature, except it didn't feel premature. It felt like the natural next step in a relationship that had been building for 15 years. You're thinking too loud again, Harper said one evening. They were cooking dinner together while Ava did homework at the kitchen table. I'm not thinking anything. You're definitely thinking something. You get this look. What look? The one where you're solving a problem in your head. Liam glanced at Ava, who was absorbed in her math worksheet, then pulled Harper close. Just thinking about the future. Our future. Yeah, what about it? How much I want it. How ready I am for all of it. Harper smiled, understanding the subtext. We've got time. I know, I'm just saying. When we're ready, I'm ready. She kissed him, soft and sweet, and Liam felt that now familiar sense of rightness. This was his life. This woman in his arms, this daughter at his table, this home they were building together. It had taken him years to recognize what was right in front of him. Years of being too scared or too stubborn or too blind to see that the love he'd been searching for had been there all along. But he saw it now. Finally. 3 months after that conversation in Harper's apartment surrounded by bookshelf pieces, Liam took Ava to the park on a Saturday afternoon. Harper was supposed to meet them there, but Liam had asked her to come a little later. He needed to talk to Ava first. They settled on their usual bench, Ava eating the ice cream he'd bought as a bribe for having a serious conversation. "Ava," he said carefully, "I want to ask you something important." She looked up, chocolate ice cream on her nose. "Okay. How would you feel if Harper and I got married someday? Not right now, but eventually." Ava's eyes went wide. "Really? You want to marry her?" "I'm thinking about it, but I wanted to make sure you'd be okay with it first. This decision affects you too." "Are you kidding? That would be amazing." Ava was practically bouncing on the bench. "Can I be the flower girl? Please, please, please." Liam laughed, relief flooding through him. "If Harper says yes, you can absolutely be the flower girl." "When are you going to ask her?" "I don't know yet. I need to figure out the right time." "Do it at the park, or at Giovanni's, or, oh, you could build something and hide the ring in it." "Build something?" "Like you built the bookshelf with her. You could build something romantic and put the ring inside." It was actually not a terrible idea. The bookshelf where this had all started. There was a symmetry to it that appealed to Liam's sense of poetry. "That's very creative, sweetheart." "I know. I'm full of good ideas." Harper arrived 20 minutes later, finding them still on the bench, conspiring. Ava immediately ran to her, bursting with energy she was clearly trying to contain. "You look excited," Harper observed, shooting Liam a questioning look. "Just happy," Ava said too brightly. "Can we go to the swings?" "Sure, troublemaker." As Ava ran ahead, Harper turned to Liam. "What was that about?" "Just talking, father-daughter stuff." "You're being mysterious." "Maybe a little." She studied him for a moment, then smiled. "Okay, I'll let you have your secrets. For now." They spent the afternoon at the park, the three of them, and Liam felt the weight of the decision settling over him. This was his family, this was his future, and he was finally ready to stop being afraid of it. That evening, after Ava was in bed, Liam started planning, not the proposal itself, not yet, but the preparation for it. He needed a ring, needed to figure out exactly what he wanted to say, needed to make sure he got this right. Because Harper deserved the world, deserved a proposal that matched the magnitude of what she meant to him, deserved to know that he was all in, completely, no more hesitation. He spent the next week ring shopping during his lunch breaks, talked to Marcus about where to buy diamonds, called Patricia to ask if she had any of Sophie's old jewelry. She didn't, and told him firmly that he shouldn't be using anything from that relationship anyway. Fresh start, she'd said. New ring for a new life. He found it at a small jeweler downtown. Nothing ostentatious. Harper wasn't flashy, but beautiful. Simple, perfect. The jeweler offered to size it, and Liam realized with a start that he had no idea what size Harper wore. He texted Patricia. "Do you know Harper's ring size?" The response came back immediately. Finally. "About time." "She's a 6.5. "How do you know that?" "I know everything. When are you asking her?" "Soon. Still planning." "Don't overthink it. She'll say yes no matter how you ask." Liam hoped she was right. 2 weeks later, the ring was ready. Liam picked it up on a Tuesday, heart pounding as the jeweler handed him the small velvet box. This was real. This was happening. He just needed to figure out when. The answer came unexpectedly. Harper mentioned she needed to replace her bookshelf. The one they'd built together had started to sag, victim of too many books and questionable construction. "We could build a new one," Liam suggested, trying to sound casual. "After how the last one went. Are you sure you want to subject yourself to that again? It wasn't that bad. We almost killed each other with Allen wrenches. But we didn't, and look what came out of it." Harper smiled. "True. Okay, let's build a bookshelf, but I'm buying one with better instructions this time." They set it for the following Saturday. Ava would be at a birthday party, giving them the whole afternoon. Liam spent the week preparing, mentally rehearsing what he'd say. He'd never been good at big romantic gestures, but this felt important enough to try. Saturday arrived with butterflies in Liam's stomach. He drove to Harper's apartment with the ring box burning a hole in his pocket. She opened the door in old jeans and a paint-stained t-shirt, hair already escaping from her ponytail. Ready for round 2 of bookshelf construction? As ready as I'll ever be. They spread out the pieces on her living room floor, and Liam was hit with déjà vu so strong it was almost dizzying. This exact scene, 3 months ago. Before everything changed. Except everything had already been changing. He just hadn't known it yet. They worked in comfortable rhythm, talking and laughing, assembling the bookshelf with significantly more success than last time. Maybe they'd learned something. Maybe they were just better together now. When they were almost done, Liam deliberately fumbled with a piece, sending screws rolling across the floor. Smooth, Harper teased. Sorry, I'm distracted. By what? You. She looked up, eyebrows raised. We've been building furniture together for 2 hours. I'm covered in sawdust. What's distracting about that? Everything. You're always distracting. He took a breath, trying to calm his racing heart. Harper, can I ask you something? Of course. Liam reached into his pocket, pulling out the small velvet box. Harper's eyes went wide. Liam, let me say this before I lose my nerve. He opened the box, revealing the ring. 3 months ago, I made a joke about marriage. I said we should just get married so you'd be legally obligated to help me build furniture, and you told me you thought I'd never ask. Harper's hand was over her mouth, eyes bright with tears. I'm not joking this time, Liam continued. I love you. I've loved you for longer than I was willing to admit. You've been there through everything, the chaos and the fear and the late nights when I thought I was failing at all of it. You've helped me raise my daughter and build my life, and you've never asked for anything except for me to finally see what was right in front of me. Liam, Harper whispered, you said you've been waiting. I'm sorry I made you wait so long, but I'm here now and I'm all in, and I'm asking, really asking this time. Harper Lane, will you marry me? The silence stretched for a heartbeat. 2. Then Harper was nodding, tears streaming down her face. Yes. Yes, of course, yes. Liam's hand shook as he slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. Of course it did. Patricia had known. Harper threw her arms around his neck, and they both ended up on the floor surrounded by bookshelf pieces, laughing and crying in equal measure. I can't believe you proposed while building a bookshelf again, Harper said between kisses. It felt right, full circle. We're so weird. We're perfect. She pulled back to look at the ring, then at him. When did you buy this? 2 weeks ago. I've been trying to figure out the right time. And you picked furniture assembly? I picked the place where everything started, where you told me the truth and I finally stopped being an idiot. Harper kissed him again, deep and thorough. When they broke apart, both breathless, she was smiling. We should probably finish the bookshelf. Probably. They didn't finish the bookshelf. They spent the rest of the afternoon on Harper's couch, talking about the future, about wedding plans and timelines, and whether they'd move into Liam's apartment or find somewhere new, about telling Ava and their families and everyone they'd been keeping in suspense. Ava already knows I was planning to propose, Liam admitted. I asked her permission first. Of course you did. What did she say? She asked if she could be the flower girl. Harper laughed. That's perfect. She can absolutely be the flower girl. She also suggested I hide the ring in something I built. Kid's got a flair for the dramatic. Wonder where she gets that from. They called Ava from the birthday party, putting her on speaker. She answered on the second ring, slightly breathless. Daddy, is everything okay? Everything's great, sweetheart. Harper and I have some news. There was a pause. Then, at full volume, Did you ask her? Liam laughed. I did. She said yes. The shriek that came through the phone was probably audible 3 states over. I'm going to be a flower girl. Can I tell everyone? Please, please, please. Sure, kiddo. Tell everyone. Connor, everybody. My dad's getting married to Harper, and I'm going to be the flower girl. They could hear excited chattering in the background. Then Ava was back. Daddy, this is the best day ever. I'm glad you think so. I have to go. Emma wants to know all about Harper. Love you. Love you too, Ava. The line went dead. Harper was wiping her eyes, laughing. That child. Our child, Liam corrected. If you're willing to sign up for that. I signed up for it years ago. This just makes it official. They told their families next. Patricia cried. Marcus whooped so loud Jennifer had to take the phone away. Harper's mother cried even harder than Patricia. Her sister demanded to be the maid of honor immediately. By the time evening rolled around, the news had spread to everyone who mattered. Social media could wait. They wanted to tell people personally first. Liam drove home in a daze. Engaged. He was engaged to Harper, the woman who'd been his best friend for 15 years, who'd helped him raise his daughter, who'd loved him patiently while he'd been too scared to love her back. Ava was waiting when he got home, practically vibrating with excitement. The birthday party mom had dropped her off early, probably overwhelmed by Ava's enthusiasm. "Let me see the ring," she demanded the moment Harper walked in behind Liam. Harper held out her hand and Ava studied the ring with serious concentration. "It's perfect. Very sparkly." "I like sparkly." "I know. Daddy did good." "I try," Liam said. Ava hugged them both, squeezing tight. "We're going to be a real family now." "We were always a real family," Harper said gently. "This just makes it official." "I know, but it's better now. More permanent." The word hit Liam hard. Permanent. That's what Ava needed to believe in. That people didn't leave. That love lasted. That families stayed together. And maybe, with Harper, that could actually be true. That night, after Ava was asleep, Liam and Harper sat on his couch planning their future. Small wedding or big? Soon or wait a year? Move in together immediately or take their time? "What do you want?" Harper asked. "Really want, not what you think you should want." Liam thought about it. "I want you here. All the time. I want to wake up next to you and make breakfast together and fight about whose turn it is to do dishes. I want all the boring domestic stuff that makes a life." "That's very specific. I've been thinking about it a lot. So I should move in?" "I think you should move in. If you want to." Harper smiled. "I want to. But we should probably find a bigger place. Your apartment is perfect for you and Ava, but 3 of us might be tight." "You want to look at places together?" "I want to build a home together, wherever that is." Over the next few months, they did exactly that. Found a 3-bedroom apartment with better light and more space. Harper gave up her lease. They merged their furniture and their lives and their habits. Ava got her own room, bigger than before. Harper set up a small office. Liam finally had space for all his design equipment without it taking over the living room. It was chaos at first, boxes everywhere, nothing in the right place, arguments about where things should go. But it was good chaos, the kind that came from building something new together. They set a wedding date for the following spring. Small ceremony, close family, and friends only. Patricia helped with planning. Ava took her flower girl duties very seriously, practicing her walk down an imaginary aisle at least twice a day. Work continued, life continued. But everything felt different now. Better. Like Liam had been living in black and white, and suddenly the world had color. 6 months after the proposal, they moved into the new apartment. A week after that, Marcus and Jennifer came over for dinner to see the place. "Look at you," Marcus said, surveying the space. "All domestic and settled. Is that surprise in your voice?" "Maybe a little. You've been a bachelor for so long, it's weird seeing you with matching furniture." Harper picked the furniture. That explains the matching part. They ate dinner on the new couch because the dining table hadn't been assembled yet. Some things never changed. Ava entertained them with stories from school. Harper and Jennifer talked about wedding plans. Marcus ribbed Liam about being domesticated. It was perfect. After everyone left and Ava was in bed, Liam found Harper in their bedroom, still getting used to that, unpacking the last few boxes. "Happy?" she asked. "Deliriously." "Even with all the chaos?" "Especially with the chaos. It's good chaos." She set down the box she'd been opening and moved into his arms. "I love you. I love you too." They stood like that for a while, swaying slightly, no music, but not needing any. This was their life now, this apartment, this family, this future they were building together. The wedding happened on a perfect spring day. Small ceremony in Patricia's backyard, just family and close friends. Ava took her role as flower girl very seriously, processing down the makeshift aisle with careful precision. Liam stood at the front, watching Harper walk toward him, and felt something click into place. this moment, this woman, this life they'd built from friendship and patience, and finally being brave enough to admit what they felt. The ceremony was simple, traditional vows, because neither of them trusted themselves to write their own without crying. Marcus was best man. Harper's sister was maid of honor. Ava stood beside them both, beaming. When the officiant pronounced them married, Liam kissed Harper like he'd been waiting his whole life to do it officially. Because in a way, he had been. The reception was small but joyful. Dancing in Patricia's backyard, cake from the bakery Harper loved, toasts from friends who'd been watching them dance around each other for years. "About time," Marcus said in his toast. We were starting to wonder if Liam would ever figure it out. "Hey," Liam protested, "I got there eventually." Eventually being the key word. But he was smiling. They all were. Because this was right. This was exactly how things were supposed to be. As the evening wound down and guests started to leave, Liam found himself standing with Harper and Ava, watching the sun set over the backyard. "This was perfect," Harper said. "It was," Ava agreed. "Can we do it again next year?" "That's not how weddings work, sweetheart." "It should be. This was fun." Liam pulled them both close, his wife and his daughter, and felt a peace he'd never experienced before. Not the absence of fear, he'd probably always be a little scared of losing this, but the certainty that he was exactly where he was meant to be. Years ago, he'd made a joke about marriage while building a bookshelf. He'd deflected with humor because the truth was too scary to acknowledge. But Harper had seen through it, had waited patiently for him to catch up to what she'd known all along. They belonged together. And now, finally, they were. Liam Parker had spent years surviving, protecting himself and his daughter from potential pain, building walls to keep people at a safe distance. But Harper had been inside those walls all along, had been part of his life so thoroughly that he hadn't recognized love when it was right in front of him. She'd been his best friend, his co-parent, his constant, and now she was his wife. The accidental proposal had become an intentional lifetime, and as the sun set on their wedding day, with Ava between them and decades of possibilities stretching ahead, Liam realized something profound. Love didn't have to mean risk. Sometimes it meant reinforcement. Sometimes the strongest thing you could build wasn't a wall to protect yourself. It was a foundation with someone who'd already proven they weren't going anywhere. And that foundation, built on 15 years of friendship and 3 months of furniture assembly and a lifetime of showing up, would hold them through whatever came next. Together.